Ladies and gentlemen, our referee has called a stop to this contest, declaring the winner by knockout and new MMA show! Greetings, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another exciting round of and new MMA show, episode 120. I am your host, Michael Hansen. And I do all kinds of festive things with microphones because I'm a ring announcer and cage announcer. And I'm joined this week, as I always am, by my two buddies, my two co-hosts, both of whom, dare I say, bring MMA punditry to new heights. Introducing to you first, in New York, Mark Priaulx. What's up, buddy?
What's up, boys? I have had a hell of a day. Work was shit and took forever. Didn't even make it home. Didn't see my kids. Didn't get my usual Connor picture and Tyson glove and other shit that's behind me. I've been in this office since 8:30 this morning. And I also didn't get to catch up on a few of the fights I hadn't seen.
Wow.
So things are going well. But other than that, I'm about to fucking rally big time and have a good episode here.
Hey, at least you got your microphone out and set up. Does that stay out?
Does it stay out? Yeah, I work like this all day.
I don't know. You just like swivel it to the side?
No, I pack it away.
Oh, okay, good.
I disconnect it.
I swivel mine to the side.
Yeah, you're at home. That's okay. All right. That man is reporting from Florida, the Sunshine State, and he is indeed the Nicaraguan nightmare. Omar Artola. What's up, my friend?
What's going on? I uncharacteristically missed the gym this afternoon. It started pouring and traffic was terrible and I didn't feel like dealing with it. So I just didn't fucking go.
Hey.
I hate myself a little bit for it, but
that's okay, buddy. It's okay.
I went this morning, but it doesn't matter.
You're falling off, dude.
Oh, dude, I always go in the morning, but then I also go in the afternoons.
Your technique's going to go to shit.
I know. So bad. Dude, I picked up so much shit from that Liam Harrison seminar. Like, there's so much shit that I added now to my game that is, like, so much fun.
Dude, I was randomly watching clips of him the other day. And, like, obviously I've seen him before, but, like, holy fuck. He's good.
He's that intense just showing techniques, too. Like, you know, if you go to a class or something like that when people are showing things off, you know, generally speaking, they're showing it like for normal people. This dude was going ham on his training partner, just going off, just showing us how everything works. Motherfuckers are sweeping each other off the floor, like kicking each other. Like the leg kicks this man was throwing were to know that they probably weren't even 100% is terrifying.
Oh
yeah, I'm sure they weren't. Yeah, wild.
So I have an event coming up this Sunday. I will be in Milwaukee once again for APFC Anthony Pettis Fighting Championship. I've lost track of what number it is. I think it's going to be 9, APFC 9. I think this is going to be the third or fourth time they're in Milwaukee. Obviously, Pettis' home city. It's going to be a big event, guys. The last one of the year, they're kind of going out with the bang, and they're going to have their most star-studded list of guests that they've had yet. I mean, you know, the past couple of times they have had like Cain Velasquez and, you know, John Jones.
We're topping
John
Jones
by himself is pretty much as big as it gets. But in terms of like, they're like packing them in for this one. So we're going to have Nate Diaz, famous magician and entertainer Chris Angel, if you know the name, the Mind Freak guy.
Of course.
We're going to have Frank Mir jumping in on color commentary. Bilal Muhammad also on commentary as well.
I always like Frank
I don't know if you guys. Yeah, me too. Jason Anik, of course, John Anik's brother and host of the Remember the Show podcast with Bilal. And Yair Rodriguez is going to be there, which is very cool. Oh, and CM Punk is going to be there.
Oh, right.
So a lot of people. Very cool. Very, very cool. Can't wait.
A lot of big ones. That's dope.
Yeah, man. So we have quite a bit to get to on this show tonight, boys. A lot going on in the MMA world. We just came off, we're on the heels of a massive pay-per-view in New York City, UFC 295, Prochazka versus Pereira. Man, what a co-main and main event. They did not disappoint. They were very entertaining and have left us with quite a bit to talk about. We're going to dive into all of these fights, including all of the undercard fights in our lightning round. We're going to go into our Priaulx rankings, find out who rose and who fell from this past weekend's event in Mark's own rankings that he maintains himself. Then we're going to go inside the MMA sphere with Omar Artola, find out what's going on in the world of MMA outside of the cage. Then we're going to look ahead to this weekend. We're going to preview Bellator 301, Amazov versus Jackson, as well as a UFC Fight Night, Allen versus Craig, headlined by Brendan Allen and Paul Craig, squaring off in the middleweight division. And then we might end with a little bit of trivia if it's not too late. I have a feeling it will be pretty late at that point, so we shall see. Before we get into any fight talk, gentlemen, let us first address our audience. If you're watching this right now on YouTube, first of all, thank you so much. We appreciate each and every one of you guys, especially those who have been with us from the beginning of the show. We've been doing the show for, 2 years now? About?
God, have we?
Yeah. It's maybe 2.5 now.
This is episode 120. So yeah, over 2 years. Yeah,
I still feel like we've been doing this for like 6 months.
Yeah, it doesn't seem like it could really be 2 years. That's wild. But
yeah. Where was I? Like I said, we love each and every one of you guys. If you've been watching some of our videos, please consider subscribing to our channel if you haven't done so yet. Hit the thumbs up if you're liking what you're watching. And of course, leave us a comment down below. If you like any of our takes, let us know down in the comments. If you disagree with any of our takes or you don't like them, let us know down in the comments. We want to hear your takes. We love that thoughtful MMA discussion. That's why we're here. That's why we do this. We wanted to build more community around these conversations about the sport that we all love. If you want audio only, you can find us wherever you get your podcasts. We got you there. And of course, find us wherever you are on social media, on all the relevant platforms at @&new_MMA show. Okay. Enough of the introing. Let's get to this episode. This week, gentlemen, the name on the marquee has got to be Alex Poatan Pereira, who this past weekend, in front of 19,000 strong at MSG in New York City, New York, USA, became the 9th ever UFC two-weight champion by becoming the now new light heavyweight champion in the UFC, defeating Jiri Prochazka by TKO via elbows and strikes in the second round. The official time 4:08 of round number 2. Oh my goodness. What a fight this was while it lasted. Mark, start us off. Give us your take of the performances of these two men and of the finish.
Yeah, this was great. Great hype around this fight. I loved the moment early on when they're having that stare down. Jiri walks to the center of the cage. Pereira doesn't even consider moving a muscle of his body in response, but they just stare holes through each other as Bruce is announcing the fight. That was awesome. This whole card was great. Just straight violence through the whole card. But yeah, I mean, it was a good fight. We didn't get the crazy fight I think a lot of us were hoping for, that was, more akin to like the Jiri Glover type of back and forth craziness. I mean, no one thought it was going to be that level of craziness, but I think we thought we might see some. Really what we just got is Alex Pereira again establishing his dominance. The guy is now a two-weight champion, 11 fights into his pro MMA career, which is nuts. And obviously he has tons of pro kickboxing experience, but it's still crazy to consider that 11 pro fights into his MMA career, the dude is the champion of 2 UFC weight classes, or I shouldn't say has been. And he's different, man, because we know, of course, he's this elite level striker, but usually when you think about guys who you give that title to, like let's say an Anderson Silva or Adesanya or Conor, all these guys, you think about the way they move and the traps they set and the variety of strikes they throw and the beauty of their games Whereas Alex Pereira just kind of stands there and does two things. He throws a right calf kick, his right leg, I mean, kicking his opponent's lead leg, and he throws a death touch left hook. And he does both of those things while barely even moving. Like he doesn't have any of the flashiness of these typical elite strikers that you talk about. I mean, you can barely even tell that the calf kick is coming. And the left hook, he doesn't have to really do anything. It can knock you out from 5 inches away with no windup. So he's just a wholly different type of elite striker than we're used to seeing. And I think that's what makes people say, like, man, like, shouldn't guys be able to beat this guy? Because it seems sort of straightforward what he's doing in there. But, man, you try stopping calf kicks that you can't even see, that have no tell, and eating left hooks that are nukes from any angle. And I don't mean to say that's all he does. Like, obviously it's not. But that's the gist of it. He's a pretty unique champion. And Jiri fought well while it lasted. His awkwardness was definitely working. He got the takedown in round 1, which you knew he'd probably look for. And he was winning round 2. He was landing some really good shots, but the lead leg was getting beat up all fight, and then he got caught. And I thought it was a bad stoppage at first myself, but Jiri did say he was out, and it was good. So that is what I will go with, and I'll trust that, even though it didn't look that way. But yeah, it was an unbelievable win for Alex. He is the king of MSG. He's now won 2 belts in that building, and he is back at top of division and calling out Izzy again.
Calling out Izzy again. We'll get to that a little bit more in depth in a little bit. Omar, let's bring you in here. What were your thoughts of those techniques that Pereira was throwing? It looked like it was a typical Jiri Prochazka fight that was kind of shaping up, as Mark was alluding to. It was going towards there. You could kind of see that it was starting to build up to that pace, but then just like that, Pereira has that game-changing left hook. What are your thoughts?
I mean, that's what he does, man. He's got a mean shovel hook for a left hand. I mean, he doesn't even really throw the hook over top for the most part. A lot of the time, he's trying to come in, to cut off almost an opponent's strike, or to kind of come inside. It's a very tight hook, and it comes up at an angle that just seems to wreck dudes left and right, man. I mean, Mark kind of pointed out pretty nicely is he's not the flashiest, right? There aren't head kicks that are getting thrown. There aren't spinning back kicks that are getting thrown. He really does stick to the fundamentals, but the dude's got so much power and he throws so well that there's not really much he needs to do, right? I think the biggest concern with him, I think we saw, was his ability to be taken down. And to his credit, he didn't get submitted. He didn't get completely outworked. He was able to defend himself on the ground. He did look pretty damn good on the ground, considering he is not a ground fighter, right? So I thought he did relatively well against somebody who I think is a lot more experienced on the ground than him, or at least I would imagine is. And then when we got to the second round, we got to a point where I think we all knew, right? These 2 main events that we had between the heavyweight championship and the light heavyweight championship, I think we knew that somebody was going to die in each one of those events, right? In each one of those fights. Like, it was going to happen. All of these guys have been wrecking dudes left and right, depending on, they've all been wrecking dudes left and right, regardless of who they've been fighting, right? Jiri's been knocking dudes out before he blew out everything. And I was not surprised to see Alex Pereira come away with the knockout. I was kind of in the same boat as Mark, though, where I wasn't really thrilled with the stoppage. And then Jiri came out and said that he was out and it was a good stoppage and stuff like that. And it kind of makes me wonder, like, because when you watch it, Jiri Prochazka is conscious, right? But my guess is he probably doesn't remember anything. He probably remembers none of it after he got clipped, maybe the first time. And there's a lot of different, videos that you can look at. There's a guy I follow on Instagram who's actually just going over the same topic about memory loss, and it's fucking video. Has been going over memory loss and things like that. And he was playing one of his fights. His name is Damian Trainer, for those of you who don't know. He's on Instagram, very knowledgeable UK Muay Thai fighter. Definitely would recommend. But he was going over a fight that he had way back when, and he remembers getting clocked in the face really hard. and he doesn't remember anything after that point. But you can see him continuing to still fight, and I don't think he won that fight, but he continued to keep going forward. So it does beg the question, like, what is really a knockout, right? Like, the body is still moving, but it doesn't seem like the brain's really working the same way anymore, because it sounds like Jiri was done, but his body was almost like an autopilot. Like, he was still moving, he was still there.
Yeah.
But when you ask him and when you try to have him recall it, he's like, I have no idea. I got hit.
I mean,
don't
how
remember
often
nothing else.
how often do you hear guys who win fights in the post-fight interview get asked about, you did get knocked down in round 2, how hurt were you? And they're like, yeah, I don't even remember it. I'd have to see it again. Like, you hear that all the time.
Yeah.
So
true.
even though he said he was out, you wonder, like, his body was clearly still going. So you do wonder if that just would have been one of those moments, if that fight got to continue, where he's fine and he keeps fighting, and then later he's like, yeah, I don't remember that when I got clipped, you know?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's tough. All those fucking moments are tough. I mean, Goddard must have saw something that made him say, I need to
I mean,
this.
let's not, the dude went limp a couple times. He got back into it seemingly, right?
It all happened so fast.
It did, but he got fucked up. There was definitely real damage that occurred in those moments for sure.
And the way that he fell, not just did he fall back, but he fell back with and Pereira fell on top of him, mounting him.
In mount.
So so Pereira wasn't going anywhere. So Goddard, in all likelihood, was saving Prochazka from, many more devastating shots.
Yep.
Very possible.
I mean, Prochazka not protesting it makes it easy for me. I'm fine.
Same.
For sure. Yeah, man. So let's talk about this this call out and the post fight interview with Rogan in the cage there. What did you make of it, Mark? Of him calling out Israel Adesanya, who is still a middleweight? Last time I checked,
it was unique because at first, because they've been like a little bit friendly at different times. You've seen some clips of them, and at first, I really thought it was him just saying, which he kind of did say, that he doesn't love seeing Izzy saying he's going to sit out for a while, saying it's a waste of talent and don't, waste your prime and come back. So at first I was taking it like he just has been through so many wars with Izzy that he respects him, and he's trying to, and he referenced how Izzy once got him, off the couch and motivated, and he was trying to do the same back to Izzy. But then he ends it with like, Adesanya, come to daddy. So I guess he is trying to tell him to come fight him at light heavyweight, which is not what I thought was happening at first. So I don't know. But, I mean, clearly we're not getting that right now. He is fighting Jamal Hill and absolutely should be fighting Jamal Hill, and there's no other fight that should be made right now. So that's where we're going. And Dana has said the same thing. So any Izzy plans are going to have to wait at least past that fight, if not others.
Yeah. Omar, what were your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, it has to be Jamal Hill. I don't really think it can be anything else. We've already got a shit show of a situation going on at heavyweight. We don't need any more of that nonsense at light heavyweight.
Yeah. Yeah, you finally have the opportunity to make a booking that cleans up everything that's been going on at light heavyweight. You made one booking with Jiri getting his shot. He didn't win. Now you make the Hill one, and then whoever wins that is truly the champ after all of this nonsense for whatever it's been, like a fucking year and a half.
I mean, let's be real. The light heavyweight division has been sketchy since DC left. Since DC's been done, light heavyweight's been like, meh. John Jones came back for a little bit,
didn't he? Or no?
DC left, and then Bones came back. I felt like for like one fight,
right?
And then,
I mean, it's been sketchy for a while. You're absolutely right. You're absolutely right.
I'll be right back. I gotta put my kid down. Carry on without me. I'll be right back. I'm so sorry.
No worries.
Okay,
no worries. So what Mike was gonna do? Mike's on dad duty tonight. If people didn't hear what he was just mumbling right there, so he's got to attend to the child. But what he was just going to do, I'm sure, is cue us up for what we think Jiri Prochazka should be doing next. So I will pitch it to you to start, Omar. What do you like for Jiri?
I was going to go with the winner of Johnny Walker and Ankalaev. I feel like that's probably what makes the most sense in that division right now.
Yeah, to me, there's a lot you could do, and it all really depends on timing because you have Jan and Rakic booked.
Yeah.
And you have Ankalaev and Walker booked. So is the plan that one of those winners is getting the title shot against the winner of Pereira and Hill? Is the plan that those winners are fighting each other? I don't really know what it is. Jiri makes sense against the winner of either of those fights. And he also makes sense against Nikita Krylov, who's been chilling for a while and is on a crazy hot streak and has no one to fight. So if Jiri wants to be active and those other two fights are booked, I don't hate booking Jiri and Krylov either because someone probably dies in that fight too. That'd be a crazy fight.
Yeah. Yeah.
Man, I feel like we should wait for Mike to get into the next fight. I feel weird beginning it without him. How soon do we think this man will be back?
I have no idea. I mean, you probably know better than I do with the children.
Yeah.
But let's get into it and hope he comes back.
The Izzy thing really makes no sense to me because he even say Pereira beats Hill. Izzy getting a title shot would still be completely ridiculous. Yeah. Like he'd have to come back and beat someone and not a middleweight. He'd have to take a light heavyweight fight. And I mean, all these names we just said, like Ankalaev, especially if he beats Walker, has a hell of a case for a title shot. Jan is right there. I mean, Rakic, if he's back in the mix, like all these dudes, you can't just leapfrog this whole fucking group of guys with Izzy. So it was different when they thought Pereira might become light heavyweight champ while Izzy was still middleweight champ. Then it's very easy to be like, boom, we're doing this again, title versus title. But that ship has kind of sailed, in my opinion. So, yeah,
I think Pereira just wants the pay-per-view points there. I think he just knows that it's a big sell, regardless of the reason or the whys.
Yeah, I mean, that's fair enough, I'm sure. But all right, let's move along. So, co-main event of this one, interim heavyweight title. Obviously, we were supposed to be seeing Bones versus Stipe at this event for the heavyweight title. Bones got hurt. Stipe is waiting for him. According to Dana, even after this fight, he said that is still the plan, to do Bones versus Stipe at whatever point in time Bones is ready to do that. So in the meantime, we got Tom Aspinall against Sergei Pavlovich for the interim heavyweight title, and Tom Aspinall ended it in 1 minute, just about minute and a half. So yeah,
it was minute 9, I think, or something like that.
Is that what it was? So yeah, something Omar, crazy. What was your take on Tom Aspinall's crowning moment?
I don't know about you, but the moment they started that fight, my asshole was tight. Like, I was in distress. My anxiety level was at 100 because you could see from the moment they started squaring off, one fuck up in either direction, somebody was going to get laid the fuck out. Could have very well have been Aspinall in that fight, and it was Sergei Pavlovich, but it really could have gone either way. The reality is the speed, man. The speed from Tom Aspinall is a real fucking problem, and he moves in a way that is not very common for heavyweights to move. Big dudes like that don't bounce. It just doesn't happen. It's one of the reasons why Tyson Fury is as popular as he is with the style of boxing that he has, because he moves so well for such a gigantic human being. And so you've got all of this power, all of this mass, all of this strength behind you, and then you can combine it with the fact that you have mobility. I mean, you become an instant issue in the division. Not to mention, obviously, Tom Aspinall is very skilled, very talented, very smart in the cage. And his ending sequence, man, going right to the body and then right to the head. I mean, that's classic low-high shit right there, man. It was beautiful. It was beautiful. The story too that surrounds it about him not, being able to train, kind of basically coming off the couch and not almost turning down the opportunity because of the injury that he was dealing with before. I think he had a back injury. Yep. He had just pulled his back or something like that. So he hadn't even really been able to grapple and train and do anything. And he was about to turn on the opportunity, and he said, fuck it. You know what? this is an opportunity. We can't just say no to things like this. Things like title shots don't come around very often, especially if you turn them down. Once you turn them down, I feel like it becomes harder to get one back. Yep. So he put all his chips in for all intents and purposes. He went all in, and that man delivered, 100% delivered. I could not have been happier in that moment for him. It was a beautiful sight to see.
Okay, I'm back.
Welcome.
What have I missed?
I set up this fight for Omar, so that's all you've missed so far.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, I mean, first off, I got to address this pre-fight moment because it was one of the coolest things I've ever seen. God. I know Omar hated it. I thought you were going to bring it up right there. I got goosebumps from it. To me, it was them giving each other full respect before going to war and basically saying, I'm sorry that 1 minute from now, I'm going to kill you, but that's the job. Yeah. And I thought that was a really unique, cool moment.
I don't hate the sentiment. I want to be clear. I don't hate the sentiment. I don't mind it at all. I like shit like that. The way they done went about it, placing each other's hands gently so on each other's shoulders, was fucking weird, man. You don't see anybody ever do that. Like, they could have shook hands. Cool. They could have they could have hugged, and it would have been less fucking weird.
They did hug,
but no.
They did.
Just hugged. Just hugged.
That would have been weirder.
Not how, Mike. Name one time in your life that you have ever held onto a man's shoulder like that while looking.
I disagree.
At him.
I don't think hand on a shoulder is weird. In fact, I think it's a very old school thing that people would do.
Yeah.
I don't think so. Not to mention on the same side, at least create a nice little square there.
Hold on.
Like, you're agreeing about the square. Pavlovich's hand went in the wrong place. I agree with that.
It was weird, man. It was weird. There's a lot of different things I wouldn't have mounted there. Like, again, hug, pound, you know what I mean? A bunch of things. But the shoulder touch on the same side was just...
Moving on to what's important.
No, hold on.
Oh, sorry.
I just need to address this one thing. You think just a hug would have been better? So listen, like this. They're facing off.
Jesus Christ, I'm not talking about him rubbing up on him.
They're staring at each other, and you think that Tom Aspinall should have gone. Hey.
No.
Bring it in.
First of all, Mike, don't make it seem like you've never seen two dudes in the octagon hug, and you know it's not weird. They go in, hug. They give each other a little hug, little respect, and then they back away. They don't fucking hold each other through the entirety of the intro.
Loved it, and I'll remember it.
Oh my God.
I'm with Mark. I loved it.
Moving along.
I got a little bit of goosebumps. I was like, damn, this is an incredible moment.
Those might not have been goosebumps, dog.
Moving along. Tom Aspinall, let's fucking go. What a win. What a moment. What an absurd level of dominance this man continues to show. I mean, no one can touch him. He's 7 fights in, not counting the Blades fight, where obviously it ended in seconds because of a freak injury. The other 7 fights. And no one has done anything besides get absolutely run over. He has finished 7 dudes in a combined 12 minutes and 6 seconds. Yes, I added this up earlier. He is a generational talent. Your boy has been saying it since day one, and I still don't feel like enough people are talking about just how good Tom Aspinall is. He is the man that can beat John Jones. And this isn't spur-of-the-moment talk like I'm seeing on social media where suddenly people love Tom Aspinall, even after they all just picked Sergei Pavlovich a few days ago going into this fight. I have been saying this. I predicted Tom as heavyweight champ by the end of 2023 on this show. I've been laying out wacky timelines that allow Tom Aspinall to fight John Jones before he retires, even though they didn't make a whole lot of sense. And we are now as close to getting that fight as we can possibly get. And I am giddy about the possibility of seeing it because I really think Tom can do it. And in this fight, it took him one exchange, one time of getting touched where he said, oh, okay, he's long. He can hit me from further away than I thought. And he adjusted that range, and he took Sergei out. His speed is on another level. He didn't even use his grappling. And I know I'm going on and on about this dude right now, but I am all the way sold on Tom Aspinall. I can't remember the last time I was this impressed with a heavyweight fighter.
I saw somebody call him the heavyweight GSP. I can't say I fully agree with that analogy,
No,
but
I don't think that's a great analogy.
And then he's well-rounded, but GSP
that,
wasn't
yeah.
knocking dudes out in minutes.
Yeah. Well, yeah, heavyweights.
At least not towards the end. Once he became champion, that shit kind of ended. GSP was fucking people up earlier on in his career.
That's true.
That's true.
But once he got gold, he was like, I'm not losing the gold. We're going to start taking people down. That's it.
GSP is such an interesting character to me. In his post-fight career, he has stayed very much like public, but for what, I don't know. He's like, I'm a healthy person now. I do calisthenics a lot, and I eat meat.
He was always like that, though, to be honest. He was always the guy who was there training. He was always the guy in there doing gymnastics when nobody the fuck else was doing gymnastics. Like, he was always a very fitness-oriented human being in general. But his obsession, I think, with MMA just kind of melded that together. But now that he doesn't need to fight anymore, he can just focus on him and his body. I don't think he has a wife or kids or anything like that. He's never really been very open about his personal life, but it doesn't seem like he's got that kind of family. I'm sure he's got like, brothers and mother and all that other kind of shit. But I don't think he's got like the wife and the kid or anything like that. So I think a lot of his time is just spent kind of still in the fighting space, training and all that stuff. And I'm pretty sure he makes a good amount of money doing it all on social media as well, with all the ads and everything else that goes along with it.
It's true.
He's one of those guys that has mastered celebrity. Like,
yeah,
see other celebrities who, when their time ends, it's like, oh yeah, that guy, like, he used to do this thing. And with GSP, it's always like, hey, that's GSP. Like,
yeah,
he's a big deal. Like, we should get his opinion on this random thing we're talking about. Like, he like has clicked into that thing where he's like a being in and of himself. Like,
he is. Yeah,
a brand, I should say, not a being.
Yes, that's the right word in today's day and age. Absolutely.
Yeah.
And he's pivoted a little bit, like I said, into like the health and wellness a lot.
Yeah,
because it's a big thing for him now. So people get his opinion on like spinach, and then he's like, "I love spinach. I used to eat it more than I do now." That's.
But no, Tom Aspinall is not my favorite GSP comparison. They're different.
Okay, getting back on track here. So Aspinall is now your interim UFC heavyweight champ. And John Jones still has the belt, correct? Because I feel like I've seen a lot of things afterwards that are like, Tom Aspinall now is the heavyweight champion.
No.
And
John Jones still the champ.
So now, what is Stipe going to do? Because now we have a champ and an interim champ, and don't they have to fight?
No. So according to, and this is what I figured going in. I think I was even saying this last week, but according to Dana, the plan is still that John Jones is fighting Stipe. He has said that it's too big of a fight, that both guys deserve it in terms of that's the fight John wants, and how can you tell John he's not getting Stipe? And that's the fight Stipe wants, and how can you tell Stipe he's not getting John? Basically, just that they're both such greats that they deserve the fight they want for their legacies. And I get it. The question to me is just, what do you do with Tom Aspinall? Because this is what I was saying last week.
Yeah.
In that Dana is saying, maybe Tom just waits. And Tom is saying, well, actually, I shouldn't say he's saying he wants to wait. He's saying, give me one of Bones or Stipe. He wants his opportunity at a legend. If you told him he had to wait, I don't know if his tune changes. But to me, I don't see how he doesn't have to defend that interim belt, because we're not getting Bones and Stipe for a while. And I really don't see Aspinall choosing to sit out for that long. So if you ask me what happens, I still think he's going to fight Cyril Gane for the interim title. I don't think he wants to do that. He's already said, you should go fight Almeida, or whatever his quote was on that.
Yep.
But I think that's the fight that's going to get presented to him.
Let's say, as an example, John Jones is good. He doesn't need 8 weeks after all. Maybe he just needs 4 or 5 or whatever, right? So he'll be healed up before the year is over. Let's say we book a fight in March with him and Stipe.
No, dude, it was 8 months, not weeks.
I'm sorry.
Towards Pac.
Yes, you're right.
Yeah,
right.
but then they
It was
lowered it and
5
said he
months.
might be
It was
back in
4 to 8
6.
months. 4 to 8 months.
Yeah.
So let's say we talk about like summer of next year.
So wait, when did he tear it? About a month ago? Yeah.
Last month, yeah.
Less than that.
Yeah.
So that was, call it mid-October. So
I think it was like the first week of November, actually.
yeah, so he ain't fighting until summer at the absolute earliest. It's probably like July at best.
So let's say they book it. Let's say everybody's like Aspinall's down to weight, whatever. And we get to like May or June. And one of these motherfuckers pulls out again for whatever reason, injury, whatever. What do? Do you just say,
then the other
it?
dude's fighting Aspinall
you just
without
have
question,
to, right? You can't.
Oh yeah, you can't keep catering to them again.
Okay.
Yeah, that would be wild.
It would be.
It
would be crazy.
In the scenario you just laid out, if this does get rebooked, say it's July, knowing fucking Bones and Stipe, when are they fighting next? December? January? So you tell me Aspinall's not going to fight for over a year? It's just not realistic.
But here's the other issue: is John Jones has such a propensity to not fight dudes last minute that if this happens, I don't see John Jones being like, "Yeah, all right, I'll take Tom Aspinall because he's the champion." Like, I just don't. It makes sense. He should, but I don't.
And then that's why you keep Tom active. And if bullshit just keeps happening, then Tom becomes your heavyweight champion. And that's why I think you don't make him wait. You book, and you can book it first. You can book him and Gone in fucking May or April, whatever. And then you have a winner coming out of that fight looking incredible, and you have that lined up, and you're saying this man's going to fight the winner of Bones and Stipe. And if Bones and Stipe falls apart again, then fuck it. Then Tom's your heavyweight champ, and you move forward.
Yeah. I wonder if Tom needs any injury-related stuff there with his back. I don't know if he needs anything there, but
yeah. But the reason I'm saying Gone is just simply because he is ranked number one. Although I haven't looked at the rankings, is he still one? I mean, nothing should have changed. Or I guess Tom is one since John is the champ. How the fuck does that work? I guess not, right? It'll say champ, interim champ, and then one.
Yeah.
No, Tom does say one, so Gone says two now. But you get my point. He's the next ranked contender, and plus that's a huge fight in Europe. I mean, you do that you do it in France, it's huge. That would suck for Tom. He's the champ. But you do that if you could do that fight in London, that would be enormous.
Oh yeah.
I think the venue might be better in London, just overall with the amount of seats and all that stuff. I feel like they have better venues over there for that.
Agree. Yeah, that's my guess.
Man, just going back to this fight, Tom Aspinall fought probably the perfect way to fight a stand-up fight against Sergei Pavlovich. That's how you have to do it, and not many heavyweights are even capable of doing that.
That's really the point. Is there's not many heavyweights at this point against Pavlovich specifically that would even be able to fight the way that he fought that fight, right? Like, I think the best course of action for most dudes are probably going to be to take him down, or try to take him down, right? Yeah. But Tom can literally get his punches there faster than Pavlovich can shoot his off, and it made all the difference.
Gone can try to fight him that way, but Gone doesn't have one-shot power like Tom has. So Gone, you would think, would have to do that for longer and avoid Pavlovich's punches for longer to be able to pull that off.
Gone actually has a good set of combinations in his repertoire, though. Like, that man actually fights pretty goddamn well when it comes. When he's on, man, and he's moving, he's got his momentum. His combinations and his flow are really fucked up. Like,
they might be prettier than Tom's are. I'm just saying he's 100%. He's not killing 100%. Guys in a minute like Tom is, because he doesn't have the same fight finishing power.
Yeah.
Or at least he doesn't throw his strikes with it generally.
Okay. Well, we should move on, shouldn't we? In the interest of time.
Let's do Sergei quick.
Mark, who do you think Sergei Pavlovich should fight next?
So I think he should fight Volkov. To me, the two fights to make outside of the picture we just discussed are Almeida against Blades and Pavlovich against Volkov. Volkov's on a great run. He deserves another shot at a big name. Him and Pavlovich have never fought before. I think that's the fight to make.
Omar, any other bright ideas?
I think we kind of already touched on some of it there. Just Cyril Gane, I feel like somewhere in there needs to be part of the mix. But I actually had Jailton Almeida up in there as well.
Isn't it Jailton?
Jailton Almeida. I figure at this point, if we want to throw him into deep water, I'm not really against it.
Dude, I'm here for it. I think Almeida, he's made it to the big time at this point. I want to see him against.
I thought you guys both wanted him in Blades so badly.
Oh, yeah. I'm saying,
every
Blades
week
is number 5.
That's
what I'm saying.
Me.
No, but you guys just both said you wanted him in Pavlovich.
I didn't say that. I just said he's made it up to the upper echelon.
Oh.
Yeah. But I will. I am fully aware that I say shit one week, and then the next week something happens. I'm like, I'll throw that guy at this guy
Not
too.
me.
Fuck it. Let's see what's
not
sticks.
me, man. I'm Mr. Consistency. Damn it.
Look, how many people did we throw at Dominic Reyes before they finally landed on something?
So many. But
like
then
the
we
whole
did say
division, we just poured out on Dominic Reyes.
Okay, real quick, I want to ask you guys this before we move on from these heavyweights. Mark, go first. Gun to your head. Tom Aspinall versus Francis Ngannou. Gut shot pick.
There's no human I'm picking over Tom Aspinall at this point in time. And there probably wasn't before this fight happened. There probably wasn't fights ago. I signed up for this man, and you can't shake me until something goes wrong.
Yeah, dude, I'm not picking against Aspinall probably for good.
Over Ngannou? Interesting.
I mean, Ngannou is really fun and really good. And to be honest, the thing that I love about Ngannou is I don't even really know what to expect anymore, because his performance against Fury was a lot better than I think I ever even imagined it could be. So I don't know if it's like a run over or anything like that. I think it would be a good fight, but just Tom Aspinall brings something crazy to the table that it's not like Tom Aspinall doesn't have power. You know what I mean? Like, he has
clearly not
power, but I don't think Ngannou has the hand speed that Tom Aspinall does. I just don't.
Really? Wow. Okay. Interesting.
Yeah, the reason John is so interesting for him is because of how little John gets hit, and because his wrestling can match or exceed, I should say. I don't mean to be dismissing John's. His wrestling is, you would think, even better than Tom's, unless Tom ends up showing us otherwise. But that's why that's so intriguing. But Tom is the first opponent that Bones will have had in ages ever who can do everything very well.
Yeah. Yeah. And is a giant and is not smaller than John.
Right. Yes.
So, yeah, very interesting package in those two guys. Okay, let's move on. In the women's strawweight division on the main card, UFC 295 at Madison Square Garden in New York City, Jessica Andrade gets back in the win column, emphatically knocking out Mackenzie Dern in the second round. The official time, 3:15 of round number 2. Mark, lead us off this time. Give us your thoughts on the performances of both of these ladies. Jessica Andrade winning with style, and Mackenzie Dern showing a little bit of concern. And the commentators were, I think one of them threw out that she regressed in her striking. Are your thoughts?
Yeah, I'll take this one from both angles, and I'll start with the winner. Awesome to see Jessica Andrade get herself a big win again and get back on track. To see someone as talented as she is lose 3 in a row felt pretty wild, and I'm glad for her that the streak didn't go to 4. And she came in with a great game plan for this fight. Keep her space and strike. That was pretty much it. And use the calf kicks to do that, to maintain that space, and also to slow Mackenzie's movement down and make her more hittable. And and just look for openings in the exchanges. And that's exactly how she knew she had to fight this fight. It's how any of us would have told her to fight this fight. It was the obvious thing that she had to do, and she executed it perfectly. To switch to Mackenzie, which I felt like was a little bit more the story of this fight. I just talked about how Jessica's game plan was perfect. What was Mackenzie's? There was almost zero effort to get inside. One time when they clinched, she threw a knee and separated, which you would imagine is the opposite of what she would try to do in that spot. There were no level changes from her. Never even made Jessica have to think about a takedown. There was no effort to get inside or to back Jessica up against the fence. I just don't get what the plan was going in. Like, did they think they were going to beat Jessica Andrade in a kickboxing match? Because they never, ever were. And then beyond that, as much as Mackenzie Dern has made strides in her striking and show that off in fights like the Angela Hill fight, she is still not a natural striker by any means, and it haunted her in this fight. When she is set and can say, like, okay, I'm going to throw this 1-2, I'm going to throw this combo, and so on, you can see those strides, and she even looks pretty good. But as soon as exchanges move past those initial punches and initial steps in her footwork, if it lasts any longer than a couple of seconds without a reset, she gets lost. And DC called it out live, and it's all I could think about rewatching it. Anytime she gets knocked off her mark, balance-wise, her head never gets back to where it should be. It's just like out there in the wind. And she got dropped 4 times in this fight. The last time she was already wobbled and Andrade just stalked her. But all 3 drops before that happened after the initial exchanges of a striking sequence. It's when the sequence is still going and she doesn't get to reset, and that's when she gets caught. And that's one of the biggest differences between a natural striker and someone trying to pick it up, because that part is harder to teach than the beginnings of the exchanges. So huge win for Jessica in her career, and definitely still some things to work on for Mackenzie Dern.
Okay, Omar, give us your thoughts on the techniques that Mackenzie Dern was throwing out there and having some success with and some not so much.
I feel like when I watched this fight, I felt like there was a way for what Mackenzie was trying to doing for it to work, but it just wasn't. It gave me shades of Ronda and Holly Holm, in the sense that you had, and no shades of Mackenzie Dern. Mackenzie Dern's got way better hands, like no shade. But the reason I compare those two together is because Mackenzie Dern tried to go down a road where she tried to primarily strike against somebody who excels at striking. Mackenzie Dern is known for taking people's limbs home with her. And I think her inability to take that fight down to the ground, keep it to the ground, and work her advantage cost her the entire fight. Because the longer that fight, and she started off, I thought, pretty well in the striking department. I thought she had some moments and things like that. The problem is when you're fighting against somebody who is that good of a striker, the more you strike with them, the more time you spend there in front of their face, the more they're going to have the opportunity to get your timing, to get something off. And Andrade is one of those people. She's like the Derek Lewis of the little women down there. She needs one hit, and she will lay anybody in that division the fuck out. Period.
It's true.
And Mackenzie Dern, once she got hit, she was not the same Mackenzie Dern. The girl's got heart. She got up, she kept going, she kept moving, but you could see the performance was just getting worse and worse as time continued to progress. She was hurt. She was continuing to get hurt. And any opportunity she had to try to get it down to the ground, her clinch game wasn't working right. She wasn't able to get any kind of trips or throws off. She wasn't able to even pull guard in that fight. Not that she necessarily attempted it. But it just wasn't working for her, man. And I think it was one of those moments of quicksand, right? Where one thing went wrong and it was difficult to recover, and then another, and then another, and then another. And before you know it, you're getting mollywopped by Jessica Andrade. You're rolling backwards on the ground, and the referee's coming to save your ass.
Yeah, at some points it was not fun to watch because I love Mackenzie Dern, and I think that she is and still will be one of the darlings of the UFC. And I hope that she can shore up those weaknesses in her game, because overall, she's still, I think, a threat in this division. And if she can become a little bit more of a threat on the feet and earn some more respect from her opponents, I think that the sky's the limit. That being said, let's talk about where is Mackenzie Dern going to go from here. Let's talk about her first, and then we'll get to the winner, Jessica Andrade. Omar, give me a name for Mackenzie Dern of who do you like her to go up against next?
So for Mackenzie Dern, I thought the one that made the most sense would be the winner of Amanda Ribas and Luana Pinheiro. They're all kind of right around in that little mix there. Last week, I talked about the loser fighting Angela Hill. And so this week, I think the winner should fight Mackenzie Dern.
Mark?
I think she should fight Loopy. We're going to talk about Loopy in a little bit. She got herself a great win. She has had a great 2023. She deserves one of these girls who are in that upper, level of the division, who've all kind of been fighting each other for a bit. She's right outside of it now, and I think that's the perfect one. So I'm going Mackenzie and Loopy.
Let's do it. Okay, Mark, staying with you, what about Jessica Andrade getting back to the win column? If you were the matchmaker of the UFC, what would you do with her next?
There's one fight and one fight only. We've mentioned it before on here as a fight that has incredibly never happened. The timing didn't work because Carla Esparza was out pregnant. She is on her way back now. Has to happen. I need that fight. Jessica Andrade and Carla Esparza.
Woo! Omar, your thoughts?
I think for me, I had Virna Jandiroba for Andrade.
Okay.
It's a lot of Portuguese there.
I like it. All right, boys. Let's keep going down the list here. Ooh, a fun one. Man, this one did not last very long. In the lightweight division, Benoit Saint-Denis gets another finish, this time over Matt Frevola in the very first round, the official time, 131 of round number 1. Omar, start us off. Give us your thoughts on Benoit Saint-Denis. The man keeps marching on in this so far stunning UFC career.
I mean, what can you say, man? I mean, I think we all took Frevola, right? Or at least a good majority of us, I feel like, took Frevola last week.
Only you.
No? Was it just
Only
me?
you.
Fuck me.
Yes.
You took
All
the
right.
steamroller.
Well, yeah, man, I like Frevola, man. I think he still has a lot of potential. I think he's still very good, but Benoit Saint-Denis is a beast, man. He's just an animal. And that lightweight division is and has been a murderer's row for like forever, it feels like. And Benoit Saint-Denis has just added himself right to that mix. And that head kick was so disgusting. You could see it opened up Frevola right away. As soon as it landed, ruined his whole life. And I felt bad, man. I felt bad because it was really early on in the fight. We hadn't even really gotten, very started in that fight. So it was a moment where he dropped his hands. He shouldn't have dropped his hands, and he got caught. And, unfortunately, that can happen from time to time. And hopefully Frevola gets back on track. But huge, huge win for Saint-Denis.
Yeah, it happened kind of fast. It seems like Frevola thought he was out of range, and he got kind of surprised by how quickly that kick came up. Mark, bringing you in here, give us your thoughts of the Frenchman, Benoit Saint-Denis, and this big win.
Benoit Saint-Denis is a problem. He is the real deal, and he may be title picture real deal. He has looked unbelievable. He does not stop coming, and the pace is just crazy. And you might say, like, oh, well, the pace didn't really come into play in this fight. It was over in a minute and a half. But it did. When they separated from the clinch after those crazy grappling exchanges, Matt Frevola hit the quick backpedal circle. And you just alluded to this, Mike. He hit the quick backpedal circle away to get away and create space because he wanted to reset after all of that. And most fighters allow that to happen in that moment. And Benoit didn't. He ran right with him, and he attacked Matt in a moment of the fight where he thought he was going to have space. And his guard was down because of it, and he ate a head kick. And that was all she wrote. Also, it seems impossible to hold Benoit down. Twice Matt was on top, and once he got swept, and the other time Benoit literally just stood up. So, yeah, this guy is a problem. God of War has been pretty accurate to this point. Mm-hmm. Big night for him. Definitely burst onto the lightweight scene. And then thanking America for the help in World War I and World War II was a highly underrated moment on the mic from him as well.
I wasn't sure if he was being sincere, if he was just trying to ingratiate.
100% was.
He was trying to ingratiate himself with the New York American audience. Thanks, guys, for your help in World War I and World War II.
It was amazing.
What are we talking about?
You could tell that
So
boy's
funny.
been waiting to give that that thank you for quite some time. You know,
That was so funny.
He himself felt weird about it because he was like, it was many years ago. But yeah, I enjoyed it.
Yeah. Are we matching them up? Did we match them up yet?
Nope.
Saint-Denis?
we did not.
Nope.
Mark, go first.
I mean, you could go some different ways for sure. It's the same issue we always run into in this fucking division is like, is Poirier going to fight Benoit Saint-Denis? No. Chandler's waiting for Connor. You know, it's all the same type of issues. Obviously, some guys are booked. I think you go Gamrot. I think him and Gamrot, again, I referenced the European card earlier being huge for Aspinall and Gone. I think on a European card, Benoit and Gamrot is huge. And Gamrot needs a fight. Doesn't seem to be getting one at the moment. So that is where I would go.
Yeah, it seems like the Poiriers and the Gaethjes of the division are kind of similar to the John Joneses and the Stipe Miocises of the heavyweight division. It's like they're like, I've earned this spot. I'm not here to fight any more up and coming guys who can take my head off.
I will say that I think not now. He would have to win another one. But I think Benoit has a better chance of getting a fight like that than someone like a Sarukian or a Gamrot because of the way they fight. I think a Dustin or a Gaethje looks at Sarukian or Gamrot and they're like, I don't want to deal with that grappling all fight. Like, I'm just trying to have a fun fight. And Benoit, I think, gets their juices flowing a little more in that they're like, damn, this guy is fucking walking through everyone and finishing everyone. And I am Dustin Poirier, and I'm going to show that he can't do that to me. You know what I mean? Yeah. I think he has a little bit of a better chance of getting that type of fight. He'd have to win another one still.
For sure. Yeah. Omar, your thoughts?
Yeah, for me, I was going to go with Jalen Turner. I think Jalen Turner is a good option for Saint-Denis. I think that considering Turner doesn't have a fight right now, and from a stylistic standpoint, I think that would answer some questions on how Saint-Denis can deal with some of the bigger guys in the division, or at least the lankier, taller dudes in the division. And stylistically, like I said, I think it'd be a fun fight. So I'm going to go with the Jalen Turner.
Nice. What about Matt Frevola? When you look at the lightweight division, Omar, who do you think the Ray Longo fighter could match up well with next?
I think for Frevola, I would love to see him still kind of in that little lower top 15 echelon. I don't really think he needs to get bumped all the way back. I think he had really good momentum and he got caught. But like I said, I still think he deserves to be there. And I think fighting Renato Moicano would be a good test to make sure that he deserves to still be in that area.
I love Moicano. Mark, what are your thoughts on Frevola's next opponent?
That's a good fight, and I agree. That's definitely the area he should still be considered in. I think there's a good handful of options in that area just because there's like 25 lightweights that are so legit. But I think Grant Dawson could work. He's another guy who kind of just got knocked out of the rankings. And then I also think the loser of the upcoming Dan Hooker-Bobby Green fight could be a good option as well.
You know what I love about MMA? I've been watching MMA so long that I've collected so many of the funny fucking moments. And Renato Moicano, that the post-fight interview he did with Rogan, he was just screaming for like a minute. And he was like, let's fucking go. Was he in New York for that? Was that also in New York?
I don't remember.
Oh my God. Every time I fucking watch that, I die.
It was fantastic.
What did he say that he wanted beer or something like that? He was like, I want beer.
I can't even remember it. I just remember it was great.
Whew. It's hard to beat, though, when Anthony Smith told Johnny Walker that he attacked his family.
But the best was like, Johnny Walker had no idea what the fuck was going on. That's really what makes that whole thing amazing, is Johnny Walker had no idea.
The fucking meme after the Ankalaev fight of that ref that didn't know what the fuck he was doing, talking to Anthony Smith, and the question is, why did you attack Anthony Smith's family? Oh God, he fucking murdered me.
It's so good, dude. MMA memes are the funniest.
Oh man,
I can't take
all
it.
right.
I can't take
Pull
it.
it together. Pull it together.
Pull
We're
it
an hour
together,
into
man.
the show.
Pull it
We haven't even
together.
finished the recaps.
Okay.
Oh, man. Let's go.
In the featherweight division, Diego Lopes defeats Pat Sabatini by knockout. Also in the very first round, 1:30 of round number 1. Omar, start us off this time. Give us your take of the still very impressive Brazilian Diego Lopes.
Dude, are you who's picking against Diego Lopes in his next fight?
No.
Oh,
Against him? I was gonna say no. Yeah, I think we all learned. We all learned there. I've been on the Diego Lopes train for a minute now since we saw him. There was just something very unique about the way he fights. For whatever reason, I don't think I was fully aware that man fought at 145. I don't think it really had clicked in my head. The way he fights, he just seems like such a bigger dude. I don't know, but he is a really impressive man. My wife hates his haircut. I keep trying to tell her it's his signature. I mean, just take away the fact that he may have cut it a little odd. That hair is fucking luxurious, my guy. Like that is a horsehair mane right there. That's what I'm saying. Yeah. There's some real flow in that hair, man. But that's his signature look. I mean, it's how people are going to recognize him and know him. And the reality is, man, that fight was absolutely amazing. I mean, we haven't seen anybody really do that to Pat Sabatini, obviously. And he made it look easy. And there's something to be said for that at this point. So good on Diego Lopes. I'm excited to see kind of where he goes. I really think he can go all the way, man. I don't, it's very difficult for me to see where he plateaus in that division, without reaching the top echelon first. So I'm excited. I'm excited to see where he goes.
Yeah, man.
Dude, Mark, he's really good. And I don't fully understand it. Like, how is a guy who lost to Nate Richardson only a couple fights before joining the UFC this good? And I'm not saying Richardson is like some random guy. He's a decent fighter, but like he's fighting over an LFA and Fury FC, and he's 3-3 in his last 6 fights, and he beat Diego Lopes. And now here Diego Lopes is going to war with Movsar Evloev and beating Gavin Tucker and Pat Sabatini in a combined 3 minutes. Like I just wasn't ready to believe that it's this real. But God, it certainly seems like it is. He has good size for the division. He's strong. He can certainly tap you in a myriad of ways. And now he's showing that he can finish you on the feet as well. And despite being 29 fights into his pro career, he's only 28 years old. So I think what we're witnessing is just a guy hitting his prime right now on the biggest stage at the perfect time.
Indeed. Let's talk about what could be next for him. Sorry, I'm looking at the baby monitor. My kids are
sorry, I thought you were going to leave.
Let's talk about where these guys are going to go from here. Is that where we're up to?
I'm sorry.
Who's going first?
I couldn't
frozen. Oh,
yeah, Mark, go first. Where is Diego Lopes going to go from here?
I think it's time for a prove it fight against an established name. I'm going Dan Ige. Let's find out.
Let's go. Omar, what are your thoughts?
I am going in the Sadiq Youssef route. Tell me that's not a fucking banger right there, my guy. That's a fucking fight right there. I love it. Yep.
Okay. What about his opponent? Pat Sabatini. What do you guys think about where he could go from here? Omar?
Pat Sabatini, for me, I was going down the direction of the loser of the Joe Anderson Brito and Jonathan Pierce fight.
That's a good one.
Yeah, I just think that, again, they're kind of in that same give or take area. So I think that'd be a fun fight.
Mark?
I'll say Alexander Hernandez, assuming he stays at featherweight. Pat, despite the talent he's shown, he's not really been able to break through into that kind of upper part of the division. This wasn't a great loss. And, you know, Hernandez has kind of had the same deal where he can't really break through, even though he started hot in the UFC. So I think pitting those two against each other makes some sense.
Nice. All right, boys. Let us now hop into our lightning round. Please give me your shortest takes, your short and sometimes hot takes on the rest of these results from UFC 295 at MSG this past Saturday night.
So
Okay, in the flyweight division.
I'll say quickly before you start to anyone who may not have been listening to our intro, if you're just watching the UFC clip here. Unfortunately, I didn't get to see 3 of these fights. I had a crazy day today. I never got to catch up. So 3 of these are going to be all Omar, but I'll be in on the rest of them.
Okay, Steve Erceg, UD over Alessandro Costa. Mark.
This was a good scrap, man. Steve Erceg looked really good in moments here. He's very poised. His grappling is so damn good. But Costa was tough. He's a black belt. He went toe-to-toe with Erceg in the grappling early. And then in round 2, it really looked like he might change the fight because he took that round handily. He upped the aggression. He was landing some big strikes. He worked his own takedown. And overall, he fought pretty well. And he almost found the recipe there, but he got tired by round 3. So you wonder if he had a full camp and hadn't taken this on short notice, if maybe we would have ended up seeing a different result. But in this one, Erceg was able to take over again late and make sure he got himself the W.
Omar.
Yes. I actually really like Steve Erceg in this fight. I thought it was relatively competitive, but I just thought Steve Erceg was the one cracking a little bit more. Especially once we got into the later rounds, I just felt like Costa started to fade a little bit and was just getting tagged a little bit more. So I thought it was a good decision. I thought it was a good call for Erceg to win, and it was a fun fight.
Luby Godinez split decision over Tabitha Ricci. Omar?
Dude, I don't know what's going on with Lupi Godinez, man, but she looks so fucking good now. I don't remember having this much fun watching her fights. I really don't. I should maybe go back and see if that's the case or not, but the last 2 or 3 fights that she's had, I have been on board with it. And this one was no different, man. I'm not really sure. I had Godinez winning that fight 2-1. I thought pretty clearly, though the rounds were, competitive. They weren't like blown away rounds, but I did think it was clear that Lupi won that fight. So I'm a little concerned that there was one judge who didn't think that, but I am glad that it went to Lupi, and I'm glad that we still see her winning.
Mark.
Yeah, like you said, it was a solid scrap the whole way through, but the result was not up for discussion. Lupi 100% won this fight, at least 29-28, and I'd be more comfortable if you scored it 30-27 for Lupi than I would if you scored the fight for Ricci in any fashion. And this one idiot, Brian Miner, didn't just score it for Ricci, he scored it 30-27 for Ricci, which is
That's right.
Inexplicable. The second round is the only one you can even argue for her. So it's baffling scorecard. Lupi was the better boxer all night long. She was the one landing the more solid shots. She stuffed every takedown. I mean, sure, Ricci was quick, but all her shots looked like she was holding back almost because of her concern of what was coming back at her from Lupi. So I thought it was a great performance from Godinez, and she continues a big 2023.
Okay, Mateus Rebecki, round 1 sub over Roosevelt Roberts. Mark?
This was a wild visual, first off. Roosevelt was so much bigger than Rambeski, and it didn't matter, man. Mateus just marched him down, brought it to the mat, and then from there, Roberts was in trouble. You know, Rambeski is so nasty on the ground, and you saw it again here. He transitioned right to the armbar from the back, and Roberts saw it coming and still couldn't stop it. Great win, and Rambeski is absolutely a name to watch. It's time to move him up the line.
Omar?
Yeah, man, I fell for Roberts in this fight. You know, we've seen him on Tough. We've seen the second, resurgence of him trying to come back into the UFC and stuff like that. And I fell for him because he kind of got run over a little bit, man. Didn't even really seem comfortable in the striking in that fight. Obviously, he had the length, but I mean, dude, you could see the physical difference in the thickness of Rebecki and the slenderness of Roberts, and the power differential must have been night and day different. I can only imagine how much strength separated them when they were actually grappling and in the clinch together. Rubeshki must feel like a fucking tank that could not be moved. I felt for Roberts in that fight. Seems all in all seemed like a bad matchup for him, but I mean that's the shit you're gonna run into in the UFC, man.
Okay,
Yeah, and he took it on 5 days notice or whatever the hell it was.
I don't think with 3 months he would have been able to do anything against that dude.
Yeah.
Okay, Nazim Sadikov and Vyacheslav Borshev majority draw. Omar.
Sadikov. So this fight was kind of wild, right? Because the first round of this fight, Borshev had this first round. It was, if you've watched Borshev fight before, he's very active, very movie, right? He moves around a lot. Was landing some nice strikes, was able to put things together. Sadikov was throwing, was in the fight. This was not, again, he got run over or anything like that. But I thought Borshev clearly had won the first round just based on activity and actual shit that landed. Sadikov in a lot of the first round was kind of falling short a little bit, just like a step or two behind. Did land some things here and there, but overall it was Borshev's a game in the first round. Second round comes, and Borshev ends up getting fucked up. I mean, Sadikov just beats the whole, first he cracks him, drops him, right? I think he hit him with a left hook that wobbled him, and then he hit him with a left kick to the head following up that launched Borshev right into the cage, and then Sadikov goes in, jumps on him, tries to get crazy with him. I think that really cost him because, one, I think he burned himself out a little bit trying to finish him the way he tried to finish him, and two, he was so crazy that there wasn't any real control over the ability to finish him while taking advantage of how hurt he was. And instead, he ended up in his guard, kind of went to mount from time to time, opened him up with an elbow and things like that, but never allowed, I guess Borshev never allowed himself to not be in a defensive mode the whole time where he wasn't still active, wasn't still moving. But there was definitely a moment there where you thought that fight was going to be done. And I think that was really where the 10-8 round came into play in that second round. Then you have the third round, and somehow, Borshev goes back to his corner in the end of second round, bloodied, beaten to shit, all kinds of messed up. Comes out in the third round, looks like he's fine. Just starts bouncing around again, starts fighting, and clearly wins the third round. I mean, Sadikov at that point had been completely kind of worn out, was still throwing and still kind of in it, but you could see that the power had gone down a ton from the first round, and Borshev was still working. So it was a very impressive performance of heart from Borshev and durability. But I think Sadikov gave that fight away, man. It ended up being a draw just because Borshev came back in that third round to get 1 and 3, while obviously round 2 was a 10-8, but Sadikov should have been able to seal that deal in round 2.
Okay, Jared Gordon, round 1 TKO over Mark Madsen. Mark.
Good thing I didn't see that fight so I could concede all of my time to Omar.
Yeah, I figured I'd give you the whole rundown of the fight since you hadn't seen it.
It sounds good. I gotta watch it.
It was good.
So yeah, Gordon and Madsen. This was a wild fight for as long as it lasted. It was honestly the most entertaining Mark Madsen we've seen thus far. I mean, he came out and was all over Jared Gordon, just swarming him, pushing a pace. But Jared Gordon said, all right, you want to make it a dogfight? Then a dogfight it is. And he withstood it, and he took over the clinch, which Madsen thought would be a weapon for him. And Gordon swung it in his favor, and he found a couple huge shots that changed the fight in the clinch and put Madsen down. And then he gave a hell of a post-fight speech on top of it about his past and, you know, things he used to do in the same arena he won this fight in. It was awesome. Great night for Jared Gordon.
Omar?
Jared Gordon pulled this one out. Here's my take, right? Like I want to give Jared Gordon a lot of credit here, and you know, there is credit that deserves to be there. He obviously had a good fight, obviously won, knocked him out. As Michael Bisping would say, God bless him. But my thing is, Jared Gordon, like, I don't think his striking was that much better, if we're being wholly honest. I thought Mark Madsen was in that fight for a little bit. I thought Jared Gordon, was doing what he did. But when we got into the clinch, we got into that dirty boxing, there's like no durability from Mark Madsen. Like he got cracked with one thing and his legs went out and he never recovered from it. And then it was one little nothing shot on the right side. And that man dropped like somebody hit him with a fucking baseball bat. There wasn't even a turn in the hip for that right hand. He had been hit with way harder stuff before that point, and I think he just the damage I think had just built up, and he just went completely down. But that dude's chin has not been his friend in his career, and I don't think it's going to get better from here.
I think
isn't that the first time he ever got knocked out?
Is it? He looks. I feel like I remember him getting maybe not knocked out all the way, but he's gotten fucked up.
Maybe.
I mean, Madsen seems like the kind of guy who shows damage easily on his face and head.
Maybe that's very possible.
I don't think he's been finished before.
Well, he got choked out by Dawson.
Grant Dawson choked him out. But did he get fucked up in that fight? God damn it.
He just got beat on the ground.
Yeah.
Okay, let's keep going. Okay, John Castaneda, UD over Kyung Ho Kang. Omar, go.
This fight I wasn't super thrilled about, to be wholly honest, man. My biggest issue with this fight is that it felt like a spar. Kang really wasn't putting a ton into it. He was doing a lot of weird things where he was giving his back a lot in the fight, spinning all the way around and doing a lot of weird shit that made that fight very odd. I thought Castaneda did enough. I thought Castaneda did more than Kang did to warrant a unanimous decision win. But overall, man, that whole fight just felt like a spar and wasn't really as entertaining to watch as it should have been, I think.
Okay, Joshua Van, UD over Kevin Borjas. Mark?
Didn't see it. It's still over.
Oh, this one? Oh, my bad. I should have written that down as well.
So the way that I just talked about Castaneda and Kang being a sparring match, this one between Van and Borjas was fucking not. This was two dudes that were trying to murder each other for 15 minutes. This was one of the most ridiculous fights on this entire card. The back and forth was absolutely wild. Borjas was lighting Van up at the early stages of this fight and then dropped him at one point with one of the most beautiful 1-2s you'll see, man. Right down the pocket, tight shoulders, tight guard in between, literal pistons that just came right out, right back in. I mean, beautiful, beautiful technique from Borjas in that sense. And then somewhere along the line, I think it was right around the end of the first or maybe even into the second, Borjas started to get that bad habit that we see Edson Barboza have, where he starts pedaling on his back foot and starts biking backwards. And by the time you realize it, you've basically just been running backwards around the octagon for like the last 3.5 minutes. Van took full advantage of it, kept coming forward. And when I tell you this man ripped Borjas' body up for like 2 rounds, man. So apparently, actually, now that I do say that, I do remember now, Van actually created a new record with 53 body shots landed.
Wow.
And I think the previous one was 51. So now he owns that record for most body shots landed. I don't know if it was in a UFC fight or within that division, but definitely a new record for sure. He was tearing this kid up to the body. And definitely warranted that win. Second and third round were Vans all the way. First round, you could definitely give that to Borjas.
Okay, last one. Jamal Emmers, TKO in round 1 over Dennis Bezucha. Mark?
Jamal Emmers showed you everything you've been wanting to see from him in that fight. He's had some tough results, but you could see the talent. And now he delivered on it in a huge way. He came out fast. He came out aggressive, moving well. His timing was on point. It all came together. Finally, for him, he needed one like that, and he got it.
Omar, take us home.
Yeah, dude. I was a little sad with this one because I really like, obviously, the Sarah Longo team and those cats from Long Island and stuff like that. But Jamal Emmers looked like he had his number from the moment that fight started. The distance management was on point. And he cracked him, man. He cracked him with a right hand right down the pipe and just never let him get up. What he was able to do in that fight was what Sadikov should have been able to do in his fight against Borisov. So good on Emmers for being able to capitalize and finish. Big win.
Okay, that does it for UFC 295. And now let's put a bow on this one. Mark, tell us who has risen and who has fallen in your rankings.
All right, it's a quick one. We're finally going to do something quick in this episode. No fallers to speak of. 3 significant risers. First one is Jared Gordon. He goes from number 36 to number 29 in my lightweight rank, so a good little bump up for him. Next one is Vyacheslav Borshov, who goes from number 64 up to number 48 in my lightweight ranking, so he kind of moves more into the mix on the back of that draw. And then the last one, the most notable one, is Benoit Saint-Denis, who was my number 21 lightweight coming in, and he is now ranked at number 11.
Wow.
Damn.
Let's go, dude.
Same for UFC, too. I actually just looked.
Oh, nice.
So, yeah, he's up there, man. He's right there.
Okay, let's keep marching right along. Omar, take us inside the MMA sphere now. Tell us what's going on in the world of MMA outside of the cage.
There is quite a bit going on, to be honest. So let's dive right into it. First thing on the list we have this week, Usman Nurmagomedov, the Bellator lightweight champion, has been suspended for 6 months now by the California State Athletic Commission after testing positive for an unknown banned substance, unknown to us. It has not been publicly released. Obviously, whoever tested him knows what the fuck it is. But that win has been overturned to a no contest. Usman has apparently has had a prescription that he has been taking. Again, no information as to what that prescription is, but he failed to apply for a TUE, or what's called a temporary use exemption. Basically, it allows, with doctors' approval and approval from the California State Athletic Commission, the use of certain substances that might otherwise be banned. As a result of him not getting this TUE for it, he's been fined $50,000 as well, and he's also been forced to enroll in VADA, which I feel like VADA is the voluntary one, right? Voluntary Athletic Doping Association or something like that.
Sounds right.
Am I making that up? Did I make it up? It is voluntary. So to force him to join voluntary seems a little odd. But that is what it is. And that's where we're at this point. So Usman lost his belt, man. Fight is no contest, and that kind of sucks. That's a real blow right there. Next on the list, more information on Conor McGregor. Conor McGregor's delay or return has been delayed yet again, it seems, according to John Kavanaugh. We already know about the delays. Conor was probably supposed to fight in July at one point, and that got pushed back in December. And then December wasn't going to happen. So supposedly they were ready to go for April. And now it seems like April is not going to happen either. And now they're looking at potentially July. So no real information as to why that is. It doesn't seem like it's coming from the Conor McGregor side. It seems like they're ready to go and they want to fight. So kind of sucks that it's going to be quite a bit before it seems like we'll see Conor McGregor back in the octagon again. Julia Budd makes the news. She has officially been released from PFL after withdrawing from her fight with Kayla Harrison for the 2023 PFL Championships. According to PFL, she had the opportunity to take the fight, and she chose not to. Budd did not sign her bout agreement consistent with her contract, and unfortunately, we had to move on. We're really excited about Aspen Ladd. This is going to be a great fight. So like we reported the other week, Aspen Ladd will be fighting Kayla Harrison at the PFL, and now you know why. Jessica Andrade, obviously with a big win this weekend, we ended up learning more throughout the fight week, towards the end of the week anyway, about Jessica Andrade's situation at home. Sounds like she's been dealing with a divorce for the past year, and that is the reason she's apparently fought so many times in 2023, win or lose. She needed the bag. She's apparently been paying out the ass for lawyers and whatever divorce fees, however the hell that works. But she's needed the money, which is super unfortunate because she had, such momentum and things like that. And now it just seems like she probably went in there relatively unprepared, having to deal with all the things she was dealing with and having to just do it for money and potentially not being as focused as she would have normally been for opportunities like that. Sucks to know that happened. UFC bantamweight Miles Johns will remain on temporary suspension pending an adjudication agreement with the Nevada Athletic State Commission following a failed drug test in relation to the fight on September 23rd. He tested positive for the M3 metabolite, which is found in DHCMT, better known as oral turinabol, which is an anabolic steroid. So anybody waiting on Miles Johns to be back in the UFC, it's not going to happen right now. Dana White says the UFC has booked the Sphere in Las Vegas for Mexican Independence Day in 2024. Most likely, Mark, what do we narrow that down to?
September
12th?
14th? Yeah.
14th.
Yeah.
It's not official, but Mexican Independence Day is like the Monday after that Saturday, so probably safe to assume that.
I looked it up. It is the 14th.
Oh, it is the 14th.
Yeah. Confirmed.
That's okay. I think we should all go. Mike, I think we should go. Mark, we should go. I would say bring your wives, but something tells me they don't give a shit. So I don't know. I might bring my wife though.
I can't do that. Otherwise, where would my kids be? I mean, maybe
you got parents, right?
Yeah, maybe. It's not impossible. I guess.
Get them for a week; they'll be thrilled.
A week? We're going for a week?
Oh, you're right. Like, look, even better. Look, you just talked yourself into it. 2 days, you'll be all right. You can do 2 days. Fine. Just leave on Friday.
Maybe.
Chill Saturday. Leave Sunday. You can do it. Let's do it. All right. Mike, I expect you to get on that as well.
Yeah, he's still muted.
He's muted. He's not going.
Is he not hearing us tell him he's muted? I've been saying it.
I didn't think I was
muted. You coming with us? You coming with us to Vegas?
No, I'm not going to go to fucking Vegas.
That's bullshit.
I only go to Vegas all the time. If somebody's fucking flying me to Vegas to work a show.
This is what you should double up on that, right? You should work a show on Friday and then come out with us on Saturday for the Sphere.
There you go.
Let's go.
Let's do it.
I can't wait to see what it's like.
I'm actually really excited to go to that Sphere. That Sphere looks ridiculous. And I'm really interested to see what they would do for a UFC fight in that Sphere. Seems very interesting. All right. Next on the list. So recently, in the last few weeks, I know we reported that there is a card going down in Shanghai, China on December 9th. That card apparently is not happening in Shanghai, China after all, which is probably why they didn't officially announce it. Apparently the card now has been shifted to Las Vegas's UFC Apex. Fucking boo. The card is expected to remain with the same main event in Song Yadong against Chris Gutierrez, but the venue has officially been moved to the US of A. So that is what it is.
Whack.
All right. We have some fight announcements, and then we can move right along. We have Manel Kape versus Matheus Nicolau 2. That has been added to UFC Vegas 83 on January 13th. Magomed Ankalaev versus Johnny Walker 2, we've alluded to earlier. That fight will be headlining that January 13th card. Neil Magny versus Mike Malott has been added to UFC's 297 card on January 20th. Sean Woodson versus Charles Jourdain has been added to UFC 297 as well. Dominic Reyes back in the mix versus Carlos Ulberg added to that January 20th card as well. And that will be most likely headlined by Jan Blachowicz and Alexander Rakic 2. not headline, definitely co-headlined. But that card is shaping up to be a fucking banger of a card so far. Julia Stoliarenko versus Luana Carolina has been added to UFC's February 3rd event. Looks like Luana Carolina's got one more fight in the UFC, it looks like. And Viviane Araujo versus Natalia Silva has been added to that card as well on February 3rd. And that is all we have for you this week.
That's it? Come on.
That's it. Boom. Done.
Let's go, Mike.
Wake up,
Keep
baby.
it moving. We got 10 fucking fights to preview still.
God, I know. I'm stuck in win, man. I'm not going to lie. Sorry.
I've
sorry,
noticed.
Boys.
Every time I talk this whole night, Omar is texting and you're looking off the screen. I feel like I'm talking
looking at
to
my
nobody.
kids. Okay. Let's fucking get into gear. Let's get into gear, boys. Okay, this coming weekend we have MMA action in 2 different promotions, Bellator and UFC. Bellator 301, Amosov versus Jackson, and a very nice UFC fight night, Allen versus Craig. Let us start with Bellator. Bellator 301, Amosov versus Jackson, going down at the Wintrust Arena in Chicago, Illinois on November 17th here. Let's, before we talk about the 5 fights that we're going to talk about, are there any other fights or fighters that you gentlemen would like to spotlight for our viewers?
Omar, you can go first if you got any.
Not really, to be honest. Chris Leroy Duncan's on this card. That one's out of left field. I didn't know that one.
We're doing Bellator, pal.
Oh, my bad. Wrong one. No, probably not. You can go with Bellator.
That's good. Yeah, it is a very solid undercard, to be honest. Very, very deep one. Juliana Velasquez is on it. She's maybe got a bit of a gimme opponent. We'll see about that. Islam Mamedov and Kelly Smota is a solid fight. Sumiko Inaba, who has been up and coming, is going to fight Denise Kielholtz. We'll see how she does with that challenge. Timur Kizriev, who looks like a stud, he's on the card. And then you got 2 heavyweight bangers on the undercard, Tyrell Fortune, Marcelo Gome, and Daniel James and Ali Isaev. So, yeah, there's a bunch of solid fights. Even I skipped over Mike Hamill and Tim Wilde. If you don't know those guys, they're both pretty quality as well. So, yeah, the undercard is worth checking out.
Fucking main card's a banger.
Let us begin. Opening the main card, Bellator 301, in the lightweight division, Patricky Pitbull versus Alexander Shabily. Pitbull, no stranger to MMA fans. Is he the older or the younger?
I always forget this. I think he's younger.
Okay.
I think it's because obviously he's the bigger one, but I think it's bigger, younger, and not bigger, older, like your mind wants to think that it is.
Yes. I think you're right. The brother of Patricio Pitbull. So Patricky Pitbull, 37-year-old, out of Rio de Janeiro, Brazil. Oh, no, excuse me. Rio Grande do Norte, Brazil, 25-11, 17 knockouts, most recently knocking out with leg kicks Roberto de Souza.
You said he's 37?
Yeah, it's the one that looks the youngest is the oldest.
He is bigger then. He is the older and bigger.
He's older and bigger.
But he looks younger, doesn't he? Like,
he
wouldn't
does
you look
younger.
at him and just
he looks younger for sure.
Brother?
Yes, he does look younger.
Okay. He leg kicked de Souza into oblivion back in July of this year at Bellator versus Ryzen 2. He'll be standing across from Alexander Shabily, the 30-year-old out of Russia. He is 23-3 with 12 knockouts and 7 submissions. He has been on a tear. He's on an 8-fight winning streak. He's undefeated 4-0 thus far under the Bellator banner. Omar, start us off. Give us your take and your pick of this opening bout on the main card of Bellator 301.
I lost my spot. I think it's crazy, first of all, that this is the opening fight.
Yeah.
It's a great fight. It's a great matchup. It's hard for me to I love Alexander Shabily. I think he actually has put on some great performances. It is difficult for me though to pick against Pitbull brothers in general. I really like the way that they fight. I know they're not perfect. They've gotten caught. I mean, we just saw Patricio get knocked out relatively recently. So you know, they're definitely not like a straight up guarantee to win. But their percentages are pretty high. And while I do prefer Patricio over Patrycky, I do still think Patrycky is pretty damn good, and I don't think that he gets the credit he deserves because of his brother. But I'm going to go with Patrycky here, man. I think Patrycky will get this one done. I think he knocks him out in the second round.
Mark?
So you may be surprised to hear the odds are fucking wide. Never expected them to be like this. Alexander Shabily is minus 550.
That's
Patricky Pitbull is a plus 400 underdog.
That seems a little disrespectful.
A little? That's a lot disrespectful. I didn't even realize that Shabily was going to be the favorite, let alone. I
thought he might be favored, but that's a lot.
That is a hell of a lot.
2 inches of height for Shabily, half an inch on the reach for Pitbull. I think Alexander Shabily is the real deal. He finished Brent Primus. He finished Tafik Musayev. He's won 8 in a row. He hasn't lost since 2016, which was a split decision, so you could go back even further than that if you want to ignore that one. And yes, Patricky Pitbull did impress me a lot in his performance against Roberto de Souza, who I thought could cause more problems for Patricky than he did. He really fought a perfect fight in that fight. He was able to lean heavily on his striking advantage, work the kicks, and get that done, but he will not have that advantage against Alexander Shabily. You know, Patricky has strong kicks. I think Shabli's are more dangerous. Patricky has big KO power. Shabily does too. And Patricky's fast, but I think Shabily is probably faster. And then I also think Shabily has more tools in the toolbox when it comes to the ground game. So I am now learning that the odds makers and the public, I guess, I don't know what this line started at, but maybe it got even wider, agree with me, considering what I just read off. But I will go Alexander Shabily to win a UD.
Can you imagine if Shabily just runs over Patricio Pitbull? Or Patricky?
Well, so while I
Patricky.
don't think that the odds should be quite that wide, I also will be going with the very impressive Russian. I will say that he finds a finish. I'll say towards the end of the fight, I think Pitbull's going to give him a run for his money, but I think that Shabli's going to outwork him and find a finish in the third round.
I just realized something that I didn't think of. This is still part of the lightweight Grand Prix. This is the semifinals. The winner was supposed to fight Usman Nurmagomedov in the finals. So this is a 5-round fight. So I will actually adjust my pick of UD, and I will say Shabily finds a late finish. I will say late round 4 TKO.
Okay.
I think the longer it goes, the more it favors him. But yeah, wow, I didn't even think of this fucking Grand Prix still going on. So this Grand Prix is in shambles now. What is even the winner of this fight doing? Because they got to get their shot to fight for $1 million. Are they putting Brent Primus in there, even though he lost? Because now it's a no contest.
Bad.
Dude, I don't know. I didn't hear anything about it.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. All right.
Who knows how long Bellator is going to be Bellator.
In the lightweight division, where are we here? Hold on, let me find my space again. In the lightweight division, AJ McKee taking
the worst. This Bellator website is fucking horrible.
Oh, Bellator's website.
Yes.
Okay, in the lightweight division, AJ McKee taking on Sidney Outlaw. McKee's the man. McKee is the 28-year-old from Long Beach, California, 20-1 as a professional with 13 finishes. Has back-to-back wins coming into this weekend over Spike Carlisle and Roberto de Souza once again. Both of those are UDs. He'll be taking on Sidney the Gun Outlaw, 31 years old, out of Pennsylvania, 17-5 with 8 submission victories coming off of a UD victory over Islam Mamedov. Omar, go first this time. Give us your take and your pick.
Another really interesting matchup.
What's that?
I'm just kidding. Go ahead.
It's a really interesting matchup, man. And I'm still really high on AJ McKee. I really like the way that kid fights, man. I think he's really well rounded. I think he's really physically. I think he's pretty imposing for the division. And Sidney Outlaw is a really good fighter, but there is something very good about AJ McKee that I don't feel like Sidney Outlaw can outwork him the way I think Sidney Outlaw tends to outwork other people. And I think the way that he uses his grappling, I don't think that AJ McKee will be susceptible to that same kind of thing. So I'm going to go to AJ McKee here, man. I think AJ McKee is just the better fighter overall. I'll play it safe, though. I'll go with a unanimous decision.
Okay, McKee is the favorite here, as you would expect. He is minus 290. Sidney Outlaw is plus 230 as the dog. To piggyback off what we were just saying a minute ago, this fight is interesting because with Nurmagomedov now out and suspended, you think about how both of these guys were in the Grand Prix. Sidney Outlaw never actually got to fight in it because he popped himself, so he got pulled. That's how Brent Primus got in the first place. And then McKee was in it, and he got hurt, obviously, and that's where Roberto de Souza stepped in. So you wonder if the winner of this fight could end up getting put into the final across from the winner of the fight we just talked about, unless they're going right back to Primus. I don't know what the plan is, but I wouldn't say that that's an impossible option. So anyway, to the fight. AJ is 1 inch taller. Outlaw, though, will have a 2.5 inch reach advantage. AJ still only has the one single loss, which was the arguable one to Patricio Pitbull. And fully believe Sidney Outlaw is no joke. He could beat a lot of dudes. He's got power on his shots. He can wrestle. He can grapple. He's a threat for certain. But I think AJ McKee has all of those things. And that while Sidney Outlaw is very good, AJ McKee is elite. And I expect that higher level of talent to shine through wherever this fight takes place. So tough fight. I don't think I see a finish, but I do see a UD for AJ McKee.
Couldn't agree more. You took the words right out of my mouth. Sidney Outlaw certainly is no slouch, but I think AJ McKee is great, and he's going to show in this fight that there are levels to this, and I think he shines here. I think he finishes Sidney Outlaw. I'm going to say another first round knockout, this time at the hands of AJ McKee. All righty, let's go on here to the bantamweight division. Rematch for the ages here. Raufeon Stots taking on Danny, the Italian gangster Sabatello. Stots, the 34-year-old, fighting out of Houston, Texas, 19-2 as a pro with 8 finishes, 4 knockouts, 4 subs, coming off of a knockout loss at the hands of Patchy Mix back in April of this year.
Yeah.
Danny Sabatello, the 30-year-old out of Coconut Creek, Florida. He's 14-3 as a pro with 5 subs on his record. Also coming off of a loss against Magomedov back in July of this year due to submission via guillotine choke. I will go first without knowing the odds. I'm going to guess that Stots is a slight favorite since he won their first match in a split decision. I recall that match had one very odd scorecard for Sabatello, giving Sabatello all 5 rounds. Correct me if I'm wrong.
You are right. It was one of those weird fights where it was a lot of control against damage, and I guess one of the judges liked the control aspect.
Yeah. I don't know why. I'm mostly Italian American, but I can't get on the bandwagon with Danny Sabatello. So I'm going to go with Stots. I'm also I'm a big Raufeon Stots fan. So this time I think Stots is a little more emphatic with the win. I'm going to say that he finishes Danny Sabatello, and I'll say he finishes him late in the fight. I'll say 3rd round. Mark,
Who'd you say?
Mark, give us the odds.
So interesting movement on the odds here. Stots opened as the favorite, as you may guess, considering he won the first fight. He opened around minus 180. Danny was like plus 140. the public, I guess, loved Danny at underdog odds because he has swelled to minus 125 as the favorite, and Stots is even money at plus 100. So interesting there. 3 inches of height for Sabatello, but 3 inches of reach for Stots. Rematch, obviously, the first fight, as we just mentioned, was super close, competitive. As we said, weird fight that was a little bit tough to score in terms of control versus damage. Obviously, 2 of the 3 judges did see it Raufeon's way, which I do believe was the correct way. This time, it's only a 3-rounder instead of a 5-rounder, which I do think maybe helps Sabatello, and that he can push even harder to try to hold these positions and ensure that 2 of these rounds have to be scored for him without worrying so much about going a full 25. Both guys coming off a loss now, so they both need this one. Obviously, Stots caught the knee for mixed. Danny just got choked out by Magomedov. Danny did have the one other fight in between, which was the Marcos Breno win, where he looked like he had added a lot of aggression to his style. And, the Magomedov fight didn't last long enough for us to see if he could do that again, but that's what he needs in this fight, because Raufeon Stots is such a good wrestler himself and so good defensively and scrambling and all that Danny has to find some moments in there. He can't just lean on the control because, again, the cards are probably not going to go his way. But against Breno, you could see he was taking more risks. He was looking to land elbows. He was sub-hunting more aggressively. It wasn't just about, I have to keep this position. And he needs that here because he needs moments to stand out in order to win these cards. Otherwise, it's probably going to look a lot like it did the first time. And maybe Stots even has more success on the feet this time. He didn't have as much as people expected the first time because he was thinking so much about the takedown. But yeah, I picked Stots the first time. I thought he won the first time. I think he's the better overall martial artist and that he can beat more high-level guys than Danny can. And I'm not going to pick him. I like Danny in this fight. He's bigger. He's relentless, and I think in this one he does find those moments and carries the cards. I'm going to say Sabatello UD.
Wow. Okay, Omar.
I don't hate the take. I really don't. I think the first fight was pretty competitive. I thought Danny Sabatello got the better of the control, I think for sure, but there was something about Stots that I thought he'd do well in that fight. I don't know, man. I think this is still just as much of a toss-up as it was before. I think both of them have styles that don't really complement each other very well because they try to do very similar things to each other, and so they just kind of clash. And it doesn't always make for the most exciting performance in general. But fuck it, I'm gonna stick with Raufeon Stots here. I'm gonna roll with Stots here, and I'll say he edges out another split decision.
Wow. Okay, we're a little all over the map here. Let's do it.
Yep,
Let's go. Okay.
Shows you what a close fight it is. We have an early finish, a split decision, and then a win for the other guy.
Yeah. All right, Coleman event time. Bellator 301. Here we go. Going down in Chicago. Sergio Pettis taking on Patchy Mix. And this is for the bantamweight title. Am I?
Yep. Unifying.
Yeah. That's right. Unifying.
The real and the interim. And the Grand Prix title, all of it.
That's right. Okay, Sergio, the Phenom Pettis, 30 years old, out of Milwaukee, Wisconsin, of course. 23-5 as a pro with 8 finishes, 4 knockouts, and 4 subs. Pettis is riding high, man. He's on a 6-fight win streak. He's undefeated 5-0 thus far in his Bellator tenure. Most recently defeating Patricio Pitbull back in June of this year, knocking Pitbull out of the Grand Prix. He'll be standing across from Patchy Mix, the 30-year-old out of Angola, New York, 18-1 as a pro with 12 submission victories on his record. He is 5-1 under Bellator on a 5-fight win streak coming into this title fight. Omar, start us off this time. Give us your take and your pick.
This is probably the fight I'm going to hate picking the most, to be honest. Aren't they boys? Don't they?
Are they?
Like, train together or some shit?
If they do, I didn't know that.
Oh, maybe I made that up. Don't quote me on that. I
are you thinking of Stots? Stots and Sergio train together.
Okay.
That may be what you're thinking of.
All right. Sergio, I think, has never looked better in his career. I think he's been looking absolutely fantastic. Confidence through the roof. Skill set has always been solid. Found himself in the right weight class. A lot of things have been looking great for Sergio. Patchy Mix looks like a fucking animal. Like, it's so hard to pick against Patchy Mix right now. Look at what he just did in his last fight. He stepped forward with his knee in the air and killed the guy. Like, it's just so hard to pick against somebody who's got that much power on the feet, has skill on the feet, but knowing the moment it drops to the ground, you're also probably fucked. It's a really difficult proposition. Sergio Pettis, as good as he is, man, as much as I would pick him 99% of the time, I think this is that 1%. I think I'm going to go with Patchy Mix here, and I think he stops him. I'm going to go with submission round 2.
Wow,
I'll go next.
Makes me sad.
Mike picks Sergio Pettis by knockout in 1 second.
I'll go next. This pick's a foregone conclusion. I am not going against Team Pettis, man. That being said, I think there is a case to be made, regardless of my conflict of interest. Sergio has looked so good in Bellator, and he, I think, fight after fight, has been surprising people. I mean, he knocked out Kyoji Horiguchi in the 4th round of their fight. He defeated Pitbull on the scorecards convincingly. So I'm gonna roll with him. I'm gonna say he gets it done. Give me Pettis by UD as well.
Sorry, I'm just writing down the picks. Okay. Sergio, despite being the defending champ here, technically, though Mix is also the interim champ, is the dog. He is plus 180. Patchy Mix is minus 220 as the favorite. Mix, as you know, has a big size advantage. He is 5 inches taller. He has a 2.5-inch reach advantage. Yeah, it's a tough call. Sergio Pettis is unbelievable. He is on a hell of a run right now. This 3-fight run of wins over Archuleta, Horiguchi, and then specifically Patricio Pitbull is probably the best run of Pettis' career to this point. The problem is there are not many 135-pound humans I am picking over this man Patchy Mix right now. And Sergio is not one of them. I know Mix has the loss to Archuleta, so all right, the MMA math favors Sergio there, but that's the only loss of Mix's career, and he has made huge improvements since that time. He's won 5 straight, 4 by finish. He is visibly and notably better and better every time we see him, and I think he's coming into this in the best form of his whole career. And I just think he's too big to be beaten by Sergio Pettis, and that he's going to lean on that in the wrestling, similar to the way he did against Kyoji. Like, yes, Sergio is mobile and he has great footwork and he can scramble and all this, but Kyoji's the same, and it did not matter at all. And Sergio can be taken down. We've seen it before. So I think Patchy's too big, and that his grappling is just that suffocating that it will carry him to victory. So I will go Patchy Mix to become the unified Bellator bantamweight champ by UD.
Ooh. Well, all right. Here we go. Main event time. Yaroslav versus Jackson. We have, in the welterweight division for the welterweight championship. Yaroslav Amazov, the Dynamo, the 30-year-old out of Ukraine, undefeated, 27-0 with 19 finishes, 9 of them knockouts, 10 of them submissions. He's undefeated, of course, in under Bellator, 8-0 thus far in his Bellator campaign. And he'll be standing across from Jason, the ass-kicking machine, Jackson. What a nickname. The 33-year-old out of Kingston, Jamaica, 16-4 as a professional with 7 finishes. He is also on a tear. He's on a 6-fight win streak himself. He is 6-1 thus far in Bellator. And let's see. I said his finishes. Oh, he's coming off of a UD win over Douglas Lima back in June of 2022. So he has had a little bit of a layoff. Mark, start us off. Give us your take and your pick.
All right, Amosov's a pretty big favorite, as you may expect. He's minus 430. Jason Jackson is plus 310 as the dog. He is bigger. He's 2 inches taller. He has a 3.5-inch reach advantage, so that will help him here. If you're trying to spring an upset, having a nice size advantage isn't a bad place to be starting from. And he has won 6 fights in a row, like you said. He beat Kunimoto, Jordan Meehan, but then from there, Bendo, Neiman Gracie, Paul Daly, Douglas Lima. It's not a bad list. That's a legitimate winning streak, but Jackson wins these fights by grinding guys out, and a lot of times by being the bigger man and grinding guys out. And in my opinion, that's just not something he's going to be able to do against Yaroslav Amosov. Logan Storley is a top shelf wrestler, and he got dominated. I guess the counter argument to that is that Jason Jackson is a much bigger man than Logan Storley. Logan Storley was smaller than Amosov, whereas Jackson is bigger everywhere. And I guess also his style of entries and setups maybe is something that could work a little bit more against Amosov than the straight double style can. But I have no reason to doubt this man. I mean, he's undefeated. He's 27-0. He's a juggernaut. He fought brilliantly the last time we saw him, stunningly brilliantly. And I think he will again. So, yeah, there's really no reason you could convince me to go the other way. I will take Yaroslav Amosov to win by a clear decision and retain his title.
Omar?
Yeah, I'd have to agree. I think for me, Amosov, I think, is just so well-rounded that I don't see Jason Jackson being able to take a massive amount of advantage of him. I think there will be moments where he might even have top control. He might even get a takedown here and there, things like that. But I don't think he'll be able to capitalize on him or keep him in a compromised position for a long period of time. I think Amosov is just too good to be dominated in those positions, even if he's in a disadvantageous position. Generally speaking, I think he'll find a way to get out of there. So I just have more confidence overall in Amosov. I think he's just the better fighter. So I'm going to go with Amosov here by unanimous decision.
I'm going to keep this one short and sweet. I'm not going against the undefeated Dynamo. So I also will say Amosov by UD. I don't think he's going to get Jackson out of there because he's a tough guy. I think it's going to take it on the scorecards. All right. That does it for Bellator 301. Those are our picks. Let us know your picks down below in the comments, and we'll see you in the next video. Now, let's turn our attention to the UFC this weekend. UFC Fight Night, Allen versus Craig, going down at the UFC Apex in Las Vegas, Nevada. Here we go. Before we talk about the 5 fights that we're going to talk about from this Fight Night card, are there any other real quick fights or fighters that you guys want to quickly spotlight for our listeners and viewers?
Not for me, to be honest. We're
like,
going long,
everybody else.
And I think it's pretty weak. Like, there's some decent names, but they're fighting like debutantes. So yeah, I don't need to.
Omar, anything? No.
Yeah, it was just the Christian Leroy Duncan was the one that caught me off guard. I didn't realize he was fighting on this card. I feel like he had a little bit of a following leading up into that Petrosian fight, but he lost. So maybe not.
Okay.
Anymore.
Go for it, Mike.
Okay. First one on deck that we have here is Jonathan Pierce versus Joanderson Brito. Pierce, JSP, the 31-year-old out of Johnson City, Tennessee. He's 14-4 as a pro with 9 knockouts on his record. He's on a 5-fight win streak. He's 1-5 in the UFC thus far. And he will be standing across from UD Darren Elkins pretty convincingly. Joanderson Brito is the 28-year-old out of Brazil. He's 15-3 with 1 draw, 13 finishes on a 3-fight win streak, most recently knocking out Weston Wilson back in July of this year. I will go first. I think this is a very interesting fight. Without knowing the odds from Mark, I would guess that Brito might be favored. I'm not sure. That being said, I was very, very impressed by Pierce's last performance. I'm going to roll with him. I'm going to say he takes another one by UD. I think that he is a giant for the weight class at 5'11". And I think he also bullies who is the much smaller Brito. Give me JSP by decision. Mark?
All right. So you're right about it being close, but you were wrong about the way it is. Jonathan Pierce is favored. He's -130. Joanderson Brito is +110. So very tight, as you alluded to, 4 inches of height for Pierce, but actually 1 inch of reach for Brito. He's very long.
Oh, funny.
This is one of those fights that you love to see. You have one guy who is just a technically sound winner that guys have struggled to deal with. And then you have another guy who is a wild fight-ending killer. And that's what this is in Pierce and Brito. Pierce has looked fantastic. His only UFC loss was up at 155. He's 5-0 at featherweight since dropping down. His striking has been on point. His wrestling's been hard to deter. He's finished 3 of 5. But then you got Brito, who can finish a fight from anywhere. You know, he'll tap you. If you let him touch you on the feet, you may crumble. All he needs is a moment to swing this thing. And I'm very torn because I think Brito is easily the best fighter Pierce has fought in the UFC thus far. But I also know Brito just lost to Bill Algeo, which is not so dissimilar of a matchup to Jonathan Pierce. But I'm going to side with the man who can find a finish anywhere. I'll say Pierce is winning the fight, and then he isn't. I will go Joe Anderson, Brito, round 2, TKO.
Okay, Omar.
I'm kind of in the same boat, to be honest. The Bill Algeo, I don't know. Bill Algeo is just such an active fighter, such a pressure fighter, and such an unorthodox fighter that while Jonathan Pierce has shades of it, I think the fact that it's not Bill Algeo will make a big difference here. Joanderson Brito carries a lot of finishing power behind him in such a small little package. And the reality is that I think if it goes to decision, I think he loses it. I don't think he wins a decision against Jonathan Pierce, but I do think he's going to catch him, and he's going to catch him early. The man fights in a way where you imagine he doesn't think that there is a second or third round at all. So I'm going to go with Joe Anderson Brito here. First round KO.
Mike, what'd you say? You said Pierce UD?
Yep. Okay, let's move on to the women's strawweight division with Luana Pinheiro taking on Amanda Ribas. So Pinheiro, the 30-year-old fighting out of Brazil, obviously, is 11-1 as a pro. Quick note, she will be fighting on her birthday. She turns 31 this Saturday. 11-1 as a pro with 7 finishes, 5 of those submissions. She has been on an absolute tear. She's on a 9-fight win streak coming into this weekend. She's obviously undefeated thus far in the UFC after winning on Contender Series. She won her UFC debut by a DQ victory because she got illegally upkicked. And then she UD'd Sam Hughes. And then she just defeated Michelle Waterson-Gomez in a split. She'll be standing across from her most formidable opponent to date, Amanda Ribas, the 30-year-old, also fighting out of Brazil. 11-4 as a pro with 6 finishes, 4 of them knockouts. She's looking to hop right back in the win column after getting TKO'd by Macy Barber back in June of this year. I will go first. This is Brazilian on Brazilian violence. One of my favorite versions of MMA to watch. I think that Ribas is going to be a real heat check for Pinheiro. And I'm going to go with Ribas. I'm going to say Ribas takes it on the scorecards. Give me Ribas by UD upsetting the rising prospect in Pinheiro, handing her first loss since 2017. Omar, why don't you go?
I think this is a fight that needs to happen, especially in the division. But I think that Amanda Ribas, I think this is a bigger fight, I think, for her than it is for Luana Pinheiro. I think Amanda Ribas kind of needs to get back on track here with the momentum that she's kind of had up and down in the division. And I think Luana Pinheiro is trying to capitalize herself off of a name like Amanda Ribas. I think the thing that's impressive is the names that Pinheiro has already racked up in the short amount of time that she's been there, and Randa Marcos and Michelle Waterson-Gomez. I think we know that there's, some of these women kind of have been towards the latter half of their career and haven't looked the same since the beginning, but there are still, big names in this division. And Pinheiro, I think, has looked pretty damn decent. Ribas's biggest issue, I think, is her inconsistency, and I think is her propensity to get hit. And I think that's where Pinheiro is going to potentially shine. So I'm going to go with Luana Pinheiro here. I think it's going to be a club and sub round 2.
For Pinheiro. Okay, Mark, give us those odds.
Ribas is a pretty nice favorite. She's minus 250. Pinheiro is plus 200 as the underdog. Pinheiro, is 1 inch taller, but Ribas has a 4-inch reach advantage.
Oh, Jesus.
And Amanda Ribas moved back down to 115, which was her original weight class, after a 3-fight foray up at 125. And I think it's the right move. Don't forget, this is a woman who owns wins over top girls at 115, like Virna Janjadova and Mackenzie Dern. So she's well established in this division. And as solid as Luana Pinheiro has looked, whether you think she should have got that decision over Waterson or not, I don't think she's on the level of Amanda Ribas. I know I'm always saying this, but I really do rate Ribas pretty highly. She's skilled everywhere. Yes, she got finished by Macy Barber in her last fight, but again, that was up at 125. Macy's a much more powerful girl. Back down at 115 now, I think she gets back on the winning track. I considered going with a finish, but I'm going to say Ribas UD.
We have the same pick. Okay, moving on now to the lightweight division. Chase Hooper taking on Jordan Levitt. So Chase the Dream Hooper. He's the 24-year-old out of Washington, USA. He's 12-3 with 1 draw, 4 knockouts, 5 submissions on his record, coming off of a UD over Nick Fiore back in May of this year. He'll be standing across from the Monkey King, Jordan Levitt, the 28-year-old out of Las Vegas, Nevada. 11-2 as a pro with 2 knockouts and 6 submissions. I got to say, very nice piece of matchmaking here. Both guys very similar in many different ways, similar, close in age, very similar records, and similar methods of victory, both of them. Levitt coming off of a TKO victory over Victor Martinez back in February of this year. Omar, go first.
You guys know I'm a big Jordan Levitt fan. I think his skill set is very interesting. I think he relies obviously on the dexterity of his body and his legs to kind of take advantage of the striking in that sense, but also to work his way on the ground as well. I think his ground game is pretty legit, and I think that makes this fight very interesting, especially somebody like like Chase Hooper, who also is very good on the ground, not so much on the feet. And I think for me, that's where I can't pick Chase Hooper for anything until I know that his hands are solid. And they are anything but from what I've seen in his recent performances. Jordan Levitt isn't like a knockout artist by any stretch of the imagination. He recently had his first knockout win, I think, ever in anything. And he was super happy about it and stuff like that, but it doesn't lend much confidence to it potentially happening again. It seems like something that he wasn't even trying to do that just sort of happened. So I don't think this is going to be like a striking brawl, but I do think if it does stay on the feet, I think Jordan Levitt probably has a little bit more of an advantage there. And I think if it goes down to the ground, maybe I'm wrong, but I don't see Jordan Levitt getting eaten up by Chase Hooper. So I'm going to go with Jordan Levitt here. I think that he does have enough to get Chase Hooper out of there. I'm going to go with the second round KO.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think that Levitt is going to be overall stronger. He's the more compact guy. I'm sure Hooper's going to have a reach advantage as well as his height advantage. But to me, also, this is a very close fight. I had a hard time picking this fight, but I give the edge to Levitt. I do think that he is also he's a submission threat, and Hooper obviously is baby Askren. But so I think Levitt can handle himself on the ground, and I will say that he will have a slight advantage on the feet. So I'm going to say that he gets it. I'm boring tonight. I'm going to say UD for Levitt. Mark?
So another one with some surprising odds, and they opened this way and have stayed this way pretty much the whole time. And it's that Chase Hooper is minus 220. Jordan Levitt is plus 180. Oh. So I thought it'd be very tight. If anything, I thought Levitt would be favored. I feel like he's the more proven of the two. But no. So measurables, 4 inches of height and 3 inches of reach for Chase Hooper. You knew he'd be the bigger guy here. I do think that Levitt is the right style of fighter where Chase Hooper could potentially look good. I do like the way Chase looked in his debut at 155. It seemed like a better place for him. Obviously, his striking is still progressing, but I think we're seeing improvements. And I just don't know if Levitt brings enough pressure and power on the feet to get Chase Hooper off him. Because one thing you know Chase Hooper is going to do is walk at you and bring volume. And then in the grappling, I feel like they're kind of a wash. Maybe we're going to learn that they're not.
Right.
So I've been flip-flopping on it, but I kind of think that the pressure of Hooper is what's swinging me. So I'll say it's close. I'll even say split decision, but I'm going to go Chase Hooper.
Okay. Okay, moving on to the co-main event of this UFC fight night in the welterweight division. Michael Morales taking on Jake the Celtic Kid Matthews. Morales, the undefeated 23-year-old prospect out of Ecuador, 15-0, like I said, undefeated, with 12 finishes, one of those submissions, and 11 of those are knockouts. He's been on a tear in the UFC thus far after winning on Contender Series. He's now 3-0 under the UFC banner, 2 of them finishes. Most recently, he got a UD over the very tough vet, Max Griffin. This time, he'll be standing across from the very talented Jake Matthews, the Celtic Kid, the 29-year-old out of Victoria, Australia. His record stands at 19-6 heading into this Saturday with 8 submission victories. You can add another 5 knockout victories to that. Most recently, subbing Darius Flowers back in July of this year. I'll go first and just get this one out of the way. Michael Morales is an absolute phenom, especially being only 23 years old. As much as I think that Jake Matthews is going to be a great heat check for him at this point, I'm going to keep rolling with the Ecuadorian Michael Morales. Give me Michael Morales with another finish over a very talented guy in Jake Matthews. I'll go second round. I hope that we get the Jake Matthews that we saw in his fight against Andre Fialho. But either way, I'm gonna stick it with Morales. Mark?
So Morales is favored. He's minus 285. Jake Matthews is a plus 230 underdog. 1 inch of height and 7 inches of reach for Michael Morales.
Wow.
7 inches of reach.
Wow.
And that is so much, and it is enough to swing me in a fight where I was initially torn when I thought it through. I've always liked the game of Jake Matthews. He is extremely well-rounded, and I do think he's live here, especially in the grappling. I'd love to see him return to that here because he does have some nasty grappling that he has not necessarily gravitated toward as of late, and I think that is the advantage he could potentially push in this fight. But Michael Morales is very good. Obviously still undefeated. He's just as fast as Jake, if not faster. And the reach is enough to swing me, as I said. So as much as I think there might be a path for Jake, I just think that the reach combined with the speed and power of Morales is probably going to be too much because he carries he doesn't even have to put much into his shots, and you could tell his power is just huge coming from a natural place. So he could put Matthews out here. Obviously, that's what Mike went with. I'm going to say this fight looks a little bit more like the Semmelsberger fight where it's like close in a lot of moments, but Matthews just gets cracked a few times, and that's what changes the fight. But I'll say he makes the bell, and I'll say it's a Morales UD.
Okay. Omar.
Fuck. I hate that, man. I want the best for Jake Matthews, but like I can't.
Dude, I know.
Disagree with
hurt
him.
me to do
I
it
can't.
too.
Morales is a beast, man. He really is. The way he fights in there, the way he moves, the way he looks. I mean, there's specimen written fucking all over this guy.
He's 6'3".
He's
at
massive.
welterweight. That's big. That's very big.
It's massive. On top of, I didn't even realize the length.
Wait, you said he's 6'3"?
That's what Sherdog says.
Yeah, Sherdog says 6'3".
What did I look at when I said he was only 1 inch taller than Matthews? Because Matthews isn't that big.
Matthews is 5'11", it looks like.
Did I fucking read? No, yeah.
No.
Tapology says Morales is 6 foot. Sherdog says he's 6'3".
Yeah.
That's a big discrepancy.
Let's see what
Wow.
UFC says. Keep going. Keep talking.
Sorry.
Well, I'm looking now because I got to find out. Now I need to know. Do they not have any of
UFC says 6 feet. So it might be Sherdog that's wrong.
Yeah, Sherdog might
Could
be full
be.
of shit. All right. Well, either
But
way.
anyway, the reach is still huge.
Yes. Yes. And the reality is that this isn't just some guy who just happens to have that kind of reach. He's a guy that's already been fucking people up.
Yep.
So I love Jake Matthews. I want to root for Jake Matthews. I want the best for Jake Matthews. I will probably be rooting for Jake Matthews. But I think Morales is going to win this fight. So give me Morales, unanimous decision.
Okay. Let's now advance on. We made it to the main event of UFC Fight Night. Allen versus Craig in the middleweight division. Brendan All-In Allen taking on Paul Bear Jew Craig. Brendan Allen, the 27-year-old out of Milwaukee, Wisconsin. He's 22-5 with 13 submission victories on his record. He's on a bit of a tear, riding a 5-fight win streak coming into this weekend. Most recently submitting Bruno Silva. By the way, in his 5-fight win streak, 4 out of the 5 have been submission victories. Most recently, that Bruno Silva one was in the very first round. He got a rear naked choke. He'll be standing across from another submission threat. This is why this fight is going to be so interesting. Paul Bear Jew Craig, the 35-year-old out of Coatbridge, Scotland, 17-6 with 1 draw and 13 wins by submission. Most recently TKOing Andre Muniz back in July of this year. Bear in mind, Paul Craig has fought a lot of his career up at 205 and came down after back-to-back losses against Volkan Ozdemir, Johnny Walker, came down to 85 and TKO'd Andre Muniz and looked very, very good down at 185 pounds. A new entrant to the contest here at middleweight. And, man, he looked good. I will go first.
You've been going
I will
first
say
a lot tonight. You're feeling confident over there.
I'm feeling it, man. Get my bad picks out of the way. This is a great fight on paper. These are both very talented guys. Both of them are huge submission threats. Mark is going to be disappointed in me in this one. I'm going to go against his guy in Brendan Allen. I think Paul Craig continues to look very, very dangerous and very relevant now at middleweight. He gets a big win over the young gun, Brendan Allen. I'll say TKO. I don't think he's going to get a submission over the submission artist in Brendan Allen. I'll say he's going to get a TKO in round 4. Omar, why don't you go?
Mark goes last. I kind of love this fight, to be honest. Paul Craig has kind of found his moment here at 185. It seems like had a great performance, obviously, against Andre Muniz. And I think against most people, I'd be picking Paul Craig to win. But Brendan Allen is a motherfucker. That's just a reality at this point. Very difficult for me to pick against Brendan Allen, even against a submission artist like Paul Craig, specifically because Brendan Allen is really goddamn good on the ground. And as good as Paul Craig is at catching dudes and being opportunistic on the ground, I just think Brendan Allen has more tools to win this fight and to stay safe. So I'm gonna go with Brendan Allen here, and I'm gonna be really bold here. I think he chokes out Paul Craig.
Wow.
Second
Stop
round.
it.
I know.
Wow.
I know.
So this is another one with really surprising odds to me. This card has had a lot of weird odds. Brendan Allen is minus 450. Paul Craig is plus 330 as the underdog.
Wow.
I don't understand how some of these are as wide as they are. And again, this one pretty much started this way from what I can see.
Wow.
Okay, so 1 inch of height and 1 inch of reach for Paul Craig. It's a great fight. I don't love it because I don't want to see either of these guys pick up an L right now. I think they're both really interesting at middleweight. As good as Brendan Allen is, and as you guys know, I'm a big believer in his skills. To finish Paul Craig is a pretty big ask, because is he going to find a sub on Paul Craig? Obviously, Omar thinks so, but not sure about that. And yes, some like big, huge knockout artists at light heavyweight have knocked Craig out, but I'm not sure Brendan Allen is quite that either. And if Allen can't finish him, as this fight goes on and it gets a little uglier and a little clinchier and a little grapplier, I think Paul Craig becomes very live in the late rounds to snatch something up on the mat, because that dude never stops coming. And he's going to try to push a pace too and wear Brendan Allen's cardio down as the fight goes on. So I am torn. As I said, I think the odds are insane. I think whatever the odds are on Craig to find a late finish, like finish in rounds 4 and 5, that type of bet is probably worth a sprinkle for whatever those odds are going to be with him being this big of a dog. But I am going to go with Brendan Allen. He's just a better overall fighter. His grappling is so damn good that you would think it should stack up just fine against Paul Craig's. He generally stuffs takedowns well. He reverses positions so well, and Craig can be prone to that. And he's the much more skilled striker. Not that he's some elite striker, because he's not, but he should still be a level or two above what Paul Craig is. So I just want to trust the better overall fighter to get things done. I could absolutely see it go the other way. And because I'm nervous about the later rounds, I'm going to say it gets finished, even though I don't 100% see that. But I'm going to say Brendan Allen, round 3 TKO.
Okay.
I like it.
And that is it.
And for the record, I love both these guys. I'm going to be sad for whoever loses. What'd you say, Mark?
Yeah, I wish they both got a shot at like an established top flight middleweight. I feel like they're both super interesting right now. I wish one didn't have to get turned back here.
It's true.
Yeah.
Well, boys, it's a little too late for trivia, and I also I have a
12:30 at night. Fucking hell.
Yeah, man, I got a lot to do leading up to this event, so no trivia, guys. Sorry. All right, boys.
Well, let's get the fuck out of here.
Enjoy the fights this weekend. We got Bellator on Friday, UFC on Saturday, and we will reconvene next week and see whether Mark has overtaken me in our picks or if I have pulled away.
For anyone who is still listening, I have closed the gap. Mike has been leading the whole year. I am behind by 3 correct picks, so it's getting down to the wire as the year comes to a close.
We're different enough this time, right?
Dude, we had like 5 differences. I was just looking.
Baby. Oh, baby.
Sabatello, Stots,
behind 2.
Mix Pettis, Bretu Pierce, Hooper Levitt, Allen Craig. Yeah, wow. 5 differences. A lot of things could happen.
A lot could happen for sure. You know what else could happen? Some sleep tonight. Yeah, boy. All right, boys.
All right. Later, folks.
We'll talk later.
Peace.
Peace.